This time I'll call the June 6, 2022 County Council meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. We appreciate you being here tonight. If you'll stand with me for invocation and pledge of allegiance. Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the many blessings that you've given our county. Thank you for the example that you set with your Son and his sacrifice for our people. I pray for the men and women who service in uniform, both local, state, and nationally. I ask that you watch over them, watch over their families, bless them and keep them safe. I ask you tonight that you give us wisdom and guidance, that we do the will of the people and what is best for the people that we serve. In your name we pray, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do not have any oath of office tonight, so we will start with our appearances. At this time, I will recognize Sheriff Tolson, who will recognize Lieutenant Terry Vineset for his service and retirement with York County.
Bear with me 1 minute. This guy has done so much. I had to store it on this here computer. So, first of all, Council, thank you so much for doing this for our retirees. Unfortunately, I'm going to see a lot of you this year as we experience this mass exodus from law enforcement. Good folks like Bubba is his name. His birth name's Terry. His real name's Bubba. As we recognize him, and I'll have several more retiring this year, and I'm happy for him. Although it's hard to see folks that I grew up with in law enforcement retire and move on. But just tell you a little bit about Bubba. He grew up in Indian Land. And he entered the Fort Mill Police Department at the age of 14 in 1990. And he stayed there as a cadet until 1997. He worked in security for a short time, and then when he was 21, when he was just enough legal to be a police officer, he got hired by the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office. Took him a couple years to get his head straight, and he decided he wanted to come to the Sheriff's Office here in York County, which was a lifelong goal of his, and he started with the Sheriff's Office in 1999. He worked patrol, which most everybody does. He went to traffic enforcement. He went to the highway interdiction team. He went to patrol sergeant in the York District. He was a patrol sergeant in the Fort Mill District, and then he transferred to family court security and council security. In 2015, he worked his way up, and he's going to retire as a lieutenant. And very proud of him. He's been known for a lot of things at the Sheriff's Office. He responded to a bank robbery back in 2006 and ended a chase in Charlotte by ramming the vehicle. And again, it's been on World's Scariest Police Chases, but how a suspect saved his foot, I don't know. But Terry and his partner were able to end that pursuit successfully. Also, while he was on the highway interdiction team, we cooperated with the Spartanburg County Sheriff's Office in an operation on I-85. Terry made a traffic stop from someone traveling from Atlanta to D.C., which ended up in a secret compartment with 35 kilograms of cocaine, which at the time was the fourth largest drug seizure in the state of South Carolina. So that's 70 plus pounds of cocaine that didn't hit the streets of our young folks and other communities. He attended a training by the FBI in human trafficking, and Terry and his partner, Philip Aldridge, made the first successful arrest, which resulted in a federal conviction for human trafficking in the Fort Mill area. So he's done a lot. He received an award from FBI Director Jim Comey at the time, as well an award from the office. He has been a community servant. If you are from Fort Mill and know folks in Fort Mill, Terry Vonset's a very common household name, and he's helped so many people, as many of our folks are. And really, I got a bone to pick with that guy right there named David Hudspeth. He was the city manager or the town manager of Fort Mill when Terry's dad retired from Fort Mill. Then he comes to York County, and now Terry's retired. So, David, let's stop this, okay? More indication of your age. But I want to recognize Terry and his wife and his family, and I know Terry is very proud of his son, who is full ride at NC State as a kicker. I think he made a 59-yard field goal at Northwestern last year. And he's proud of him. He's going to spend some time with him and start a family-owned business. And Terry, I'm proud of you. I appreciate your service to this community and to law enforcement. I think of you as a brother, and just happy for you, and congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
So what the county gives you, what the council gives you, is a clock. You don't have to put any batteries in. Time will stay still. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And with your name on it, September 7th, 1999 to July 1, 2022, in appreciation of your dedication and service to York County, South Carolina.
And I appreciate the work y'all do.
Thank y'all. Turn around.
Thank you, Sheriff, and thank you, Lieutenant. We're thankful for your service, and we're even more glad that you're able to retire and to enjoy your time with your family. And we know that it's a family sacrifice when you do that kind of service. We appreciate what you've done for our community, and we're thankful for your family and wish you many blessings and a great retirement. Thank you, sir. At this time, I'll recognize Patrick Hamilton, who will provide an update for Pennies for Progress.
Good evening, Council. It's been a little while since I've seen you, so I have some good positive news to bring tonight. So, wrong one. Yep. Okay, very good. As always, we'll start with projects under construction. Councilwoman Love, I'm pleased to let you know that Highway 274 Pole Branch Road is at the finish line. All the paving will be completed this week. There'll still be some pavement marking, some shoulder work, some odds and ends stuff to be done, but we're hoping by the end of the month, the project will be substantially complete. You'll still see crews there throughout the summer doing punch list items, but in general, we're hoping by the end of the month, everything will be, all the pavement will be done, pavement markings, shoulder work will be done. Like I said, there'll still be some punch list items throughout the summer, but in general, the project will be complete. Obviously, here's the Highway 274 looking north, the new 5-lane bridge there. Here is the intersection of Highway 274 and Pole Branch Road. Obviously, the signal is still there. You can still see some cones. This picture was taken last week. So, and then the last picture is just another picture of Pole Branch. You can see one of the new bridges there in the middle. But we are pleased to bring this project to a close. Gold Hill I-77, another major Pennies project in the area, I-77 exit 88. Project is essentially complete. You know, all the asphalt's done, pavement markings are done. There's still some signage left to be completed, some little bit of handwork out there. So, but as far as the public's concerned, you know, the final paving's done, the project is complete in general. The final traffic pattern is open. Seems to be making a pretty good improvement up there. I've heard a lot of complaints last fall when it first opened, but this spring it's been fairly quiet, which is a good thing. That means people are adjusting to it, and it seems to be working pretty well.
Is there, on that one there, is there measurements where they can see where that's quantifiable that we can share with the public on the difference between the two?
As far as like a delay standpoint?
Traffic flows and delays and all that?
I would have to reach out to our partners at SCDOT and see
Okay.
if they're able to track that information, and if so, I'll be happy to share that.
That'd be great, thank you.
Galleria Boulevard, this is a brand new road. This is a Pennies 4 project. It is extending the existing Galleria Boulevard and tying over to Red River Road. You can see that's Red River at the bottom of your screen and Waterford Park Drive intersection. Similar to Pole Branch Road, all the paving is complete on this project. They should be doing the final pavement markings, I think, this week or next week. And again, end of June, we're looking to have this project open to traffic. And here's another picture looking at it from the other end of the project where you have the existing Galleria Boulevard there. Fort Mill Parkway Spratt intersection. You can see the Fort Mill wastewater treatment plant there. You can see the cleared route for where the new road will go. There's been a lot of work up to this point underground, a lot of water line, sewer line, utility relocations. If you look kind of toward the bottom right of your screen, you can see a large pile of riprap where we had to extend one of the culverts. There's another culvert on the northern side of the project that's been extended. So a lot of work underground up to this point. They have rough graded the entire site, as you can see there. So this one will get moving forward more in the above ground work. We do probably anticipate spring of 23 before this project is complete and open to traffic. Hubert Graham Way Extension, this is another Pennies 4 project in the TK area, just at the North Carolina line. In fact, the neighborhood on the right, that's actually in North Carolina. So you can see at the top of your screen, that's the Windhaven development where we're tying into. So this project is pretty well underway. They've been doing a lot of cross-line pipes, things of that sort. All the clearing's done. We do hope to have this project open this fall to traffic. This will tie into existing county road of Dry Run Road, which is just off of Zor Road. Right near the state line in TK. Highway 321 Johnson Railroad Street intersection, which is just down the street here from the government center here. So we're going to be, that's Meritor on the right and the BP gas station on your left for reference. So we're going to be adding a southbound left turn lane into the Meritor entrance. And if you can see the dirt that's been graded in the middle, that's going to be realigning Galilean Road to tie into US 321. Again, we're hoping for this project to be open to traffic by the end of this year. I did want to give a brief update on the SIB projects. Exit 85, Highway 160. Again, that's the interchange project in addition to a 6-lane widening from Highway 21 over to Pleasant Road. RFATS is paying for the widening part of it, and the county and the SIB is paying for the interchange itself. Right-of-way acquisition is ongoing. Last update I received from SCDOT is they plan to bid the project in the spring of 2023, targeting a summer of 23 construction start. Exit 82, which is Cherry Road and Celanese, A, B, and C. The DOT has hired a consultant on that project. They've completed all the survey work. They are going through the traffic analysis at the moment. Talked with them this week, got another update. They will be, once they finish modeling the existing traffic, they will be modeling the couple of alternatives for improvements to the interchange to see how those proposed improvements work. And they'll measure out 20 years into the future to make sure whatever improvements done will be able to last for 20 years. And exit 90. So those of you who weren't on council back in 2020, exit 90 was included in the original SIB application. It was not selected. However, recently the SIB board has reached back out to staff to gauge our interest in the project. We've responded that yes, we are still interested in the project. So we're right now just awaiting the next step. But it does appear that the SIB board does have some additional funds to allocate throughout the state, and they're looking at the projects that were not approved back in 2020. So we'll probably get some more information from them, have to submit more information to them, but we are eagerly awaiting information from the SIB on the next steps with that project.
What was going to be done at that intersection?
Exit 90, it was a purely conceptual layout.
Okay.
Can't explain to it off the top of my head because it was a very
Yeah.
non-traditional improvement just because the
Okay.
traditional interchange that doesn't work anymore with the volume of traffic at the interchange.
Okay, gotcha.
And it was just a conceptual. If the project's awarded, there'll be full traffic studies done
I
to
gotcha.
analyze multiple alternatives.
Okay, thank you.
Now I want to talk a little bit about Pennies 5. I know we're in the middle of Pennies 4, but Pennies 5 is coming up faster than you think. So the Pennies 4 tax expires April 30th, 2025. Whoa, what just happened? Karen, can you set me back up there, please? Okay, so pennies 5 would need to be voted on in November of 2024 in order to continue the tax. Remember, it's not a new tax, it'll be a continuation of the existing tax. And if approved, the pennies 5 tax would begin on May 1st, 2025, which is one day after the pennies 4 tax expires. So you may be asking yourself, that's 2.5 years from now, why are we talking about it now? Well, there's a lot that has to happen prior to that vote in 2025. Starting with the establishment of a 6-member citizen commission who is charged with selecting the project. So this is a fairly big misconception I see throughout the public, that they think either county council picks the projects or county staff picks the projects. That is not the case at all. There is a 6-member citizen group that's required by the state law that is formed, and they pick the projects. They put the projects in priority order, and it is a population-based formula where 3 of the members are appointed by you, the York County Council, 2 members are appointed by the Rock Hill City Council, and the final member is appointed by the 8 remaining municipalities in the county. So that has to happen this fall. So I have a timeline here. So at your September 6th meeting, we anticipate bringing a resolution for you to approve to form the commission that I just mentioned. October 17th is when we anticipate the council to approve those 6 members. 3 from county council, 2 from Rock Hill, and 1 from the remaining municipalities. They will have their first meeting this fall, in which they will set a meeting calendar for the remainder until the projects are selected. And that'll go from end of this year to April of 2024. They will hold public meetings all throughout the county. Typically, on Pennies 4, they held 1 meeting a month. They'll go to every municipality within the county, give them an opportunity to present project requests to the commission. Meetings are open to the public. The public can come and present project requests. We'll take project requests through our website. So anybody, municipality, a private citizen, they will have their opportunity to be able to present or request any project that they so choose. May of 2024, the commission has to finalize the referendum project list, and they will present it to county council. Over summer of 2024, there'll be 3 readings and a public hearing to establish the ordinance for the referendum, and then in November of 2024 will be the public vote on the continuation of the tax or not. So I know it seems like a long way away, but the process starts now. So there's a lot to happen over the next couple of years in getting the final project list narrowed down, and a lot of public input that has to take place. So I know that's a lot of information on the Pennies 5 and everything, but I'll open it up to any questions that y'all may have.
Thank you, Patrick. Any questions from council? Mr. Roddy?
This is more of a comment. Thank you for the update. The mic's not on. Thanks for the update. I'm glad you addressed how the process works about how these projects are presented, selected, and voted on by the public, because there has been some conversations throughout the community about council picks these projects. Council gets to designate which roads that goes on the pennies list, but I'm glad you had the opportunity to put it out on public display as to how this process moves along, what it entails, and how intensive it's going to be over the next couple of years getting this thing ready. So I just wanted to thank you for pointing that out in the process.
And one more point, if I could add on to that, is you can't add new projects once the referendum's been voted on. If the project's not identified on the referendum, we can't spend any money on it.
Mr. Winkler?
And I was just going, I know the answer, but for clarification for the community and all as well, all we can do is vote it up or down.
Yes or no?
We can't add, if we don't like the list, we can't make a change to it.
Council cannot change the
is-
order, they can't add a project, can't take a project off. It's either a yes or a no. That's correct.
Can you give some clarification just publicly on Mount Gallant Road, which was part of Pennies 2?
Correct. So it was on Pennies 2, towards the bottom of the list. We didn't have any funding, so it moved to Pennies 3. And we are currently anticipate beginning right-of-way acquisition this fall, which will probably take a couple years. So we're still a few years out from construction, but the project is moving forward. It's never, we started design in 2016, and it's been going forward ever since. But we do anticipate right-of-way beginning this fall.
And where will that go from? Celanese Highway?
Celanese to Twin Lakes.
All right, thank you.
Quick question, Patrick, and you may have already covered, I might have missed this. on Penny's 4, are we going to meet 100% of completion of all projects on Penny's 4?
At this time, I anticipate that, but I do give a caveat now with all the inflation and increased prices that we've been seeing. It's just something that we're monitoring. Our revenue has been drastically higher than we anticipated, but inflation and cost of projects are also increasing as well. So right now, we still feel confident we'll be able to complete all projects, but we are monitoring that as we move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Does that include the contingent road, Neely Store?
Neely Road,
I mean,
yes, ma'am.
Neely
We have
Road.
started design on,
So at least
that road.
at this stage, all of the projects that are on Penny's 4, which is the latest one that council up here would have been involved in, those are on schedule and
yes,
within budget.
that's correct.
Okay, any other questions?
I had one more. So where are we at on the 72 project from?
Highway 72, so that runs from 901 down to Rambo Road. It'll be a 5-lane widening from 901 to Rawlsville, and then a 3-lane widening from Rawlsville to Rambo. That project, we have submitted 100% plans to SCDOT for review. So there's still probably 2 or 3 tracks of right-of-way we're close to finalizing, but really the main part is being able to get the final plans approved by DOT, which we anticipate to happen this fall, I'd say.
Okay, because I know I've gotten some calls about when this is going to happen, because it's
Certainly.
kind of been around for a while.
One question with the appointment of the commission members, obviously it's state law that requires the appointment of the 6 people that will serve on this commission to identify the roads. Is there an application process for consideration, or are they all nominated by the various jurisdictions who have the opportunity to promote them?
I am not 100% sure, actually. I wasn't here in 2015 when the Pennies 4 Commission was established. So that might be something we may need to look into and follow back up with council.
Yeah, I'd like to have an answer as whether or not the applications, folks can actually reach out and request to be considered in addition to nominations from the floor. Any other questions?
Yeah, I do have one question about that. Because of the change in our census numbers, have we re-looked at how we allot the 6 members because of the growth in this area, in certain areas?
My understanding it's still the same as I outlined this evening.
Okay. Has there ever been any discussion around looking at census growth and?
I think that'd be a question for our delegation since it's state law, so I think
Yeah.
we might ought to
Okay.
follow up with that as well as our application
Okay.
process.
Very good, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Patrick.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Patrick.
We move now to our public forum session. This is the opportunity where folks can sign up and come speak to the council. A couple of things to remember is this is not an opportunity for council to answer questions or engage. This is really our chance to hear from constituents. So we give you this chance ahead of the agenda to come forward and speak if you've signed up on the list. When I call your name, if you have signed up, a couple of things. Number one, when you first get to the podium, if you would please state your name and give your address before you start speaking. And also, if you will pay attention to the screen up front, we do have a lot of business to cover tonight, and one of my jobs is to cut you off if you go beyond 2 minutes. I absolutely hate doing that. So if you don't mind paying attention yourselves and when it starts blinking, cut off your comments, that will make me not feel so rude, but I will cut you off if we do that. Another thing, I ask that you not make any specific statements or pointed questions since we can't respond to you. If you'll keep your comments limited to the issues that you are concerned about on county council, then that will, we would appreciate that. The last thing I'll mention is that if you signed up to speak on a matter that actually has a public hearing, which we have several public hearings tonight, you may want to say, you can certainly speak 2 minutes if you want to, and you can actually speak again at the public hearing, but you're going to be capped at 2 minutes here. So you can waive and just speak at the public hearing. At the public hearing, you will not have a time limit. You can talk as long as you want. So first up, Lieutenant Tim Ayers.
Good evening. My name is Tim Ayers. I live at 949 Normandy Way in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Madam Chair, council members, our managers and staff appreciate it, and along with the members of the community for being here. I was asked by council member Roddy to give him an update on the Worthy Boys and Girls Camp that the Rock Hill Police Department runs. And we were talking about it, and Bump, I'll call you Bump, that's all right, sir. Well, had a discussion, and Bump was telling me that he actually attended the camp back in his youth, we acquired the land in 1949. We started building the camp in 1950. And since 1950, the Rock Hill Police Department has run this camp for, we don't say for underprivileged children, but for children that might not have the chance to go to an overnight camp because of the cost and expense. And so we were talking about it. We are a registered 501c3. And the camp is actually, we have 4 cabins on site. We have 50 acres. We have 4 cabins on site, 32 campers, 8 campers in each cabin stay, and the police officer is actually the counselor in the cabin with them, stays overnight. It builds our bonds with the youth, and some of them, I was listening with Lonnie going a minute ago, and 27 and a half years, I've still got campers that when I was a counselor at the camp will actually come up to me now and say, hey, you were my counselor. You know, they're grown kids. Their kids are actually coming to the camp and all now. So we provided each one of you with a pamphlet on the camp, some information. Again, we said it was a registered 501c3. Just like for you to look at that and see, and appreciate any support from the community. Also, we still have openings. We just started camp today, and we have openings. We got 4 more weeks coming up, so we'd love to have as many children come out as possible.
Thank you, Lieutenant
Thank you.
Ayers. Margaret Puckett.
Margaret Puckett, 1919 Manor Court, Fort Mill. Good evening, Council. Thank you for your time tonight. I've now had the opportunity to speak in front of Council 3 times regarding Tripoint Home's proposed rezoning on Coltharp Road. Following our second reading on May 16th, Tripoint was asked to host a community meeting with the neighbors of the nearby Habersham community. We held our community on Wednesday, May 25th. In attendance, there were about 8 to 10 residents. The residents' primary concerns with our project were the Fort Mill School impacts and the traffic. Tripoint presented that of all the alternative forms of development on the 10.5 acres, including a medical office or commercial uses, that a residential use is actually the least impactful to traffic on Coltharp Road from a trip generation perspective. School impacts are more sensitive and more challenging to address because I don't have an immediate solution other than contributing to the impact fees that were designed to benefit new construction in the Fort Mill School District. Our community alone would generate almost $600,000 in fees. Tripoint has garnered the support from 5 immediate neighbors, which is pretty unusual in this type of circumstance. And I will end with this. A resale home in Habersham would cost upwards of $800,000. Our community would provide an affordable alternative for perhaps a teacher who resides in Fort Mill or a police officer who would likely want to live in a place that they call home and work there too. Thank you for allowing us to get this far. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ms. Puckett. A lot of folks have scratched their names out, so at the end, I'll just make sure that if you signed up and don't feel like I called your name, that you'll let me know that. Derek Kraksburger.
Good evening. My name is Derek Kraksburger. I live at 5301 Meadowcroft Way, Fort Mill, speaking in opposition to the proposal you just heard about. The government interest in voting no on this project is based on the government interest in balancing the growth of the community with the government-provided infrastructure there to support it. And when the government cannot balance that equation by keeping pace with the required infrastructure, it needs to balance that equation by controlling the growth. The very zoning restriction at issue here was put in place by the government for precisely that purpose. In every relevant document and every relevant government agency that has spoken on this and reviewed it has advised you that the proper way to balance that equation is by voting no. We did meet with the developer and other interested parties. At your request, we assume that you made that request because you think that our objection is primarily NIMBYism, but we are not making a NIMBYist argument. Because at the end of the day, that is really just an emotional appeal, and we do not believe that government authority should be used in service to narrow sympathies. It should be used primarily for the greatest good of the larger community. And even then should not be arbitrary, but should be circumscribed by publicly known rules, policies, and procedures, by the objective assessment of a professional taxpayer-funded planning staff and a citizen-run planning commission, and it should be informed by the forward guidance provided by that government, ostensibly to promote the greatest good of the larger community, so that residents and investors alike can have a reasonable expectation of the future and can plan accordingly. The 48 townhomes in question are not a drop in the bucket. Fort Mill Schools has informed you that the more appropriate metaphor is another straw on an overburdened camel. Now, will this project be the one that breaks that camel's back, or will it be the next project, or the project after that? Difficult to say, but you will need to draw that line. And if you choose not to draw that line here, what objective criteria currently not in play in this situation will you use to justly and fairly justify drawing that line in the future? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Gerald Matthews.
Ma'am, could I speak at the public hearing on this?
If you want to wait till the public hearing, yes, sir. Ben Johnson.
Thank you, Ms. Cox, members of the council. I'm Ben Johnson. I live at 310 College Avenue in Rock Hill. I represent Tripoint Homes, which has the matter up for third reading tonight, the rezoning matter on Colthorpe Road. Of course, rezoning is a legislative function. You have legislative discretion. It's up to you. There are a number of factors for you to consider. No single factor controls, but the most appropriate factor is, does it fit? Does it fit the adjoining land uses that are already there? And you've heard extensively in prior meetings that there are significant residences next to this property. Chief David Jennings has a house there, so does his sister. They support this project. They support this project because they think the townhome project is an appropriate buffer and transition from the light industrial and the office use on the other side of it. You also have a letter that you received at first reading from our next door neighbor, Forest Hills Church, which supports this project. There's a playground next to this property, and the church welcomes this project and the people who will be living there, and very much would not want any kind of commercial or light industrial use because they think it would be incompatible with the church uses. Government infrastructure, the utilities are not an issue here. The traffic study has been accepted. There's no traffic issue here. We presented information showing to the homeowners group that a light industrial use would be 2 times the amount of traffic, and a lot of that would be trucks. A shopping use would be 20 times the amount of traffic. We're only 5% of what shopping would be, and general office building would be 3 times the amount of traffic. But most importantly, the property hasn't and can't be developed for that, but because of the lack of frontage.
Thank you, Mr.
The school is not
Johnson.
an issue. It won't be marketed for families or children, and the impact is minimal.
Thank you, sir. Reese Russell. Reese Russell. Larry, I believe it says Millens or Mills.
Now, may I extend to the next meeting for the public hearing?
If there's a public hearing, yes, sir, you can wait till then. Dr. Norma Gray.
Yes, I'd like to defer to the public hearing for that.
Okay, yes, ma'am. James Cheek.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you so much for having me. My name is James Cheek. I live at 215 Cheek Road in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And the reason why I'm here is because I'm the president and owner of Diversified Recycling, Inc. out of 1099 Rock Hill, 1099 Albright Road in Rock Hill. And I'm seeking for your help. The back entrance of my property is on Blackman Road. And I think a lot of times it's known as Dump USA. And here's the thing. I have a state contract for South Carolina. My number one customer is the state of South Carolina for recycling used oil, oil filters, used antifreeze, absorbents, also the VAC division. I have inspection every quarter. So far, over 4 years, I have not had any citations at all from the DOT. I try to keep everything clean and nice. So guess who comes to see me also? Is other people from the state of South Carolina. And the only interest that I have is on Blackman Road. I can't tell you what kind of a dump it is over there. I've done everything I possibly can to keep my facility up. And I try to stay on good terms with the state of South Carolina. I am in the environment business, but we try to do everything with clean hands and hands on top of the table. So what I'm here for is I'm seeking help from you as the council. Help me clean up that road out there because it is absolutely horrible. I don't know what, I'm not looking for answers, I'm looking for help. So I don't know what you guys can do, but I'd like to be able to address this another time if need be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Alan Needham? Yes, sir. Matt Coe?
Yeah, hi, my name is Matthew Cook. I'm represent the Manufactured Housing Institute of South Carolina. I'm from Columbia, South Carolina. And I just wanted to take a few moments to share with you that during the land development code process and revisiting it just recently, we had identified some issues that would have prevented manufactured housing to be able to be moved into certain newly rezoned areas. And I just wanted to share with you, I worked closely with Mr. Buono and his staff, and they were very receptive in talking with me and working closely with me, as well as the committee with Ms. Love and Mr. Roddy and Mr. Guffey, and willing to ask some questions, share some information, and to ensure that manufactured housing is going to be able to be moved into some of these areas. And so I wanted to thank you all for that, and just to say I appreciate the reception, and I appreciate on behalf of our members that you're continuing to remain open to manufactured housing as an important part of the housing stock in your community, and we feel a very important need for a lot of people to have affordable housing available to them. And you know, our new products are really tremendous, and we really help fulfill a lifelong dream for many Americans and many people who want to have their own homes and be able to own their own homes. So thank you for that, and I hope going forward you continue to remain open to that. You know, 1 in 5 families in South Carolina lives in a manufactured house, and it's a really important market and really important segment of your community. So thank you for all your help, and I appreciate it. And I remain a resource to all of you on any questions regarding manufactured and modular housing issues. So feel free to reach out at any time. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. That concludes our public forum session. There were several folks that wrote their name down and scratched it out. If you believe your name was on there and didn't mean to scratch it out, if you'll raise your hand, I'll make sure that you get recognized. Not seeing any hands raised, we will move on to our consent agenda. Do we have a motion on consent?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I would actually like to remove 17 for additional discussion.
Our policy going forward is any council member who requests that an item be removed out of consent, certainly that can happen. Will the individual who made the motion agree to have number 17 removed and put to number 4 in new business?
Yes.
And the second
Yes.
will agree. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. We move now to our first public hearing. Item number 1, rezoning action. Hold a public hearing and consider first reading case number 22-03, tax map number 44300000002 to rezone from RUD to RMX 10, 155 acres in District 3. Mr. Buono.
Good evening, Council. So this request is on Highway 5. It's roughly halfway in between the municipal limits of York and Rock Hill. So there is an existing manufactured home park on McAfee Road. You can see it here, just over 60 homes there. There we go. So the proposal is to rezone from the existing RUD district to RMX, or Residential Mix 10, and to replace that existing manufactured home park with a new one that would be 409 sites. So this is the proposed site plan, conceptual from the applicants. If you have questions, I'm sure they'll be able to supply some more information about their site and their designs for it. Remote's a little sticky tonight. Here we go. So I did want to talk about the zoning and the future land use map. So the zoning that you can see here on the left, the property itself is RUD. The vast majority of the surrounding property is likewise RUD. There is a couple of parcels zoned general commercial across from York Highway. A lot of those existing RUD properties are substantiated neighborhoods with parcels between 1 and 7 acres. For the future land use map, it's in the rural residential category, so that's really looking for residential uses that are up to 1 dwelling unit per acre, so really looking for an acre lot or larger. And for this type of proposal, the comp plan would really have to have that brown color, that neighborhood residential that is traditionally seen around the municipalities. So here's an aerial with that site plan on top of it, so you just get a context of what that would look like in the surrounding area. So staff recommends denial of this application, as does the Planning Commission, by a vote of 8-0. And the reason for that is it really just does not conform to our comprehensive plan. That rural residential category is looking for that 1 dwelling unit per acre, and RMX 10 is not consistent with that. And so, for example, if you were to do just a traditional single-family detached development, you could have a density of 2.5, so 2.5 times larger than what the comp plan is looking for in this area. For a mobile manufactured home park on well and septic, it's you could do up to 4 dwelling units per acre. And for the same type of park on water and sewer, which this project is proposing to do currently, the density could be as high as 8 dwelling units per acre. And for context, this project's proposed density with their 409 units would be roughly 2.6 dwelling units per acre. So as we talked about, we have those surrounding neighborhoods that are about 1 to 7 acres in size for those individual lots. And the context for this project, the proposed home sites, each of the individual home sites would be about 2,000 square feet. Also, the extension of utilities from York to the site would create unplanned development pressure along York Highway. So once this project were to come in, it's got utilities extended to it. Now there's utilities available to many more sites previously that did not have it. So there's a lot of development opportunity there the plan does not currently contemplate. So for that reason, staff and Planning Commission recommend denial, but we are recommending bodies. So if council considers approval of this rezoning request, we strongly suggest that the applicants be required to submit a localized comp plan amendment, which would replan the immediate area along the property and that utility extension so that we can plan for that growth that the extension would create.
Any questions for Mr. Bono from council? Mr. Roddy?
So I hear you say if water and sewer is extended, that the number of units could be higher.
That's correct.
On this property. The proposed project that we have before us, that density is much lower, correct?
Correct.
So with water sewer there, it could have up to how many units per acre?
Well, it's 8 dwelling units per acre.
If water and sewer exists?
If water sewer is there, correct. If they were to do well and septic, it would be 4 for a manufactured home park.
And your statistics say this one is 2.6 per acre?
Correct.
Almost 75% less than what could be there with the extension of water sewer.
Correct.
And I heard you mention that if water sewer is extended along Highway 5, it would put pressure on the comp plan or other areas to develop. So extending water sewer down Highway 5, in staff's eyes, is that a bad thing?
Well, it's not necessarily, we don't deal in good or bad. We deal in planned or unplanned. And right now, our comprehensive plan does not contemplate existing utilities along Highway 5 in this area. So that's why if we go back to that comp plan map, you can see it's got all of that light green color. That is anticipating 1+ acre lots or larger than that. So that's what that color is typically looking for in the rural residential category.
So with the general commercial piece there, is that still general commercial in the comp plan, or that's what it's zoned for now?
That's what it's zoned for now. So if that property that's currently zoned general commercial would look to rezone to something else, the comp plan would look for it to be rezoned something that fits the rural residential category.
Because right now, I mean, I travel that road coming to York every meeting and many other times, and I don't see that being a general commercial spot along that portion of Highway 5. There's no other commercial even in that area, is it?
And I think even some of those properties are family lots, I think on the east side. I'm not sure about that west side, that there might be a business there, I'm not certain.
And my last question is, do you have any idea why the planning commission said no to this project?
It's my understanding it's a lot of the same reasoning that staff had for our recommendation. It's a large departure from our comp plan. So when we've got some proposals that they generally don't really hit the mark for the comp plan, this one is very far removed from what our comp plan recommends for the area at this point in time.
Any other questions of staff? Ms. Love?
So on one of the slides, it said, I think it said new manufactured home park or something like that. So are they limited to bringing in new mobile homes, or are they able to drag one from somewhere else and set up there?
So there's nothing in York County's Code of Ordinances that prohibits a property owner from bringing in an existing manufactured home. When we met with these folks, we were told that part of their neighborhood design is to only allow new manufactured homes to be brought in, but I'm not sure if they plan to go forward with that or if that's changed in any way.
Mr. Audette?
Yeah, so running the numbers a little bit on this, what was the response from the school system in the area? And what was their stance on this?
I don't know in particular what the school district said. I know there is a letter in the staff report that was included, so I think it should be in the last page of the staff report from the Planning Commission. I think generally, I think it expressed concern, but I'm highly paraphrasing there.
Yeah, just running the numbers. Again, on an average, you look at about 0.8 students per household, 0.9. So you're probably looking at, if this was fully approved, probably look about 300 students possibly coming out of there. When you look at the cost of an elementary school, you've got 600-700, so you're looking at about a half an elementary school from capital expenditures, and then probably about 20 teachers. Again, just want to bring that to light when we start looking at these larger projects and the impact on the school system. Yeah.
I do have one more question. So I drove over to look at this. I drove the pretty much the length of that area, which I'm very familiar with because my grandparents lived over there. I didn't see any rezoning signs up anywhere for this rezoning. I didn't see any at the entrance to the park. I didn't see anything that indicated that there was a rezoning for this, and that's a little bit of a concern because when you look at that map and you see a lot of those houses that might be on half to 1 acre lots are going to back up to this. And I just want to, my concern is for those people who may not be fully aware that there is a rezoning taking place.
Yeah, the property should have been posted. Happy to check on that. Sometimes signs do go missing, and weather happens sometimes to affect that. Sometimes maybe more nefarious than that, but I'll double check to make sure those are posted.
Thank you.
Jonathan, what is currently there?
It's an existing manufactured home park, and so it's got about 60 some odd home lots on it.
All right, thank you. And, one more thing. What's the year? There's a certain year that a manufactured home can't be moved once it hits a certain age, right?
There is. I do not know that off the top of my head. It's pretty far out, though. I believe it's 50 some odd years, something like that. I'd have to double check. I'll get back to you on that.
Mr. Pono, I've heard some questions about and some concerns that the property owner and the property itself is not in compliance with zoning and with stormwater requirements. Are there any violations or outstanding for the property owner at this point?
I'm happy to double check on that as well. I'm not aware of any active violations at this time.
Thank you. Any other questions from council?
I just want to clarify. I think that year is 5 years, not 50 years. Be able to move a manufactured home. Can I ask staff?
That's my recollection as well, but we'll have to verify that. I think it is 5 years.
Thank you.
Isn't it part of our ordinance about the 5 year? Isn't it part of our ordinance about a 5 year cutoff?
That's my understanding, but I didn't research it before the meeting, but that's what based on memory, I think that's correct.
So we can put that in the recode.
Any other questions of staff before we open public hearing? Thank you, Jonathan. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of this request? If you would, please come forward, give your name and address, and state your comments.
Good evening, Dr. Margaret Gray, 407 Marshall Street. I speak tonight not only on behalf of myself, but also of the Get Clear Social Justice Network. So, good evening, Madam Chair and County Council staff. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the McPhee Mobile Home Park. And I'm here to say that I'm in favor of this development and recognize and want to recommend that council seriously consider this project. I understand that the staff and planning commission did recommend that you all deny this. And as I listened to the recommendation tonight, it is sad that you all did not get an actual picture. While I understand that, you know, what they're showing you, but you really have, if you've not had an opportunity to look at it, it is, in some of the people that I've spoken to, it's an eyesore and has been for that time. So I trusted that you would, before making your final decision, to please go take a look at it. I visit oftentimes, and this is my first time here, but living in the city limits, I often go to planning commissions, and I do know that the planning commission, as well as the staff, do a very, very good job at what they do in making their recommendations to you all. But tonight, I am saddened to hear the fact that he did not have answers to some of the questions that you all asked of him, and could not give you direct answers to what you need in order to make this decision. I've looked at the plans, I've seen the pictures, I've done the research. When Councilman Roddy asked him the question of if he does the work to put in the lines and run the numbers as it relates to advancing what that's going to do, if he puts in the sewer lines, it's only going to benefit us. It's only going to extend the utility for our advancement. That means we'll be able to give more utility to more people, and he's willing to do that. He couldn't answer that question for you. I understand the strain that it may put in our school system, but something's going to go there eventually. He could use the acreage, right? So yes, it might be a problem in terms of how many homes he can put on there, but we're really not talking about a whole lot of difference. The difference that we're talking about is affordability. That's the issue. Since I moved back into this area back in 1993, we started the discussion, how are we going to deal with affordable homes? We keep talking about affordability, affordable homes, we need it. But if we keep telling developers who keep coming to us with development of affordable homes, and we keep squeezing them and squeezing them and squeezing them and squeezing them, both on the county and city level, when are we going to get affordable homes? When we do the math, what is affordable homes? To many of you, affordable homes are 400,000, 600,000, $500,000. But to others, homelessness is not because they are broke. They're homeless because it's a choice. They're homeless because they cannot afford a $400,000 house. I work with the homeless. Homelessness is a choice. It's about affordability. What he is willing to do is build affordable modular homes. He already told you 1 in 5 live in good modular homes. Now, I appeal to you from this perspective. We have a serious shortage of affordable homes right here in York County. I get where we're going. I see where we're going on a city and county basis. I don't want us to build homes that some of our forefathers could not have afforded to live in. So I'm appealing to you to please make sure that when you are looking, let's look at the whole picture. Don't look at what that can be. Look at what it is before you make the decision of what you want it to be. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else who wishes to speak in favor? Please come forward.
Council, good evening. My name is Richard G., 136 Main Street in Pineville. Thank you so much for having me tonight to present my project. Tonight, my three main takeaways for you to show you what's currently there, what we have planned, and really why we're doing this. I've been working on this project for over a year now, and I'm really excited and frankly proud of the plan we put together so far. It's a wonderful site, and we have an idea that's going to be really great for just not only this parcel, but for the surrounding community and for the greater ethos of York County. We can do quality housing, and we can make it affordable at the same time. So a little bit about me real quick. I grew up back and forth between Chester, just south of Highway 9 up the bypass, and South Charlotte. Go back and forth in the weekends, so I'm from here. I want to be proud of what I put here, right? And, you know, we're a family business. We're based in Pineville, like I said. We're just up the road. So we're not some big national builder. You know, this is my home, and I have a personal interest in making sure that I am proud of what I put here. And I truly believe this is a great thing for the community, a massive improvement on what's currently there, and just for York County in general. So I'm here to present that vision for reviving, renovating, and redeveloping the McAfee community on Highway 5. I know many people have driven by this property and wish something could be done to jumpstart what is a central location between York and Rock Hill. And from so many of the neighbors I've spoken to, many of which are here today, I've heard overwhelming support. And many couldn't be here because of night shifts, but I've come to realize there is a desire to have this parcel finally be improved and turn what many consider an eyesore into something beautiful while still remaining affordable. So before I jump into this vision, I think it's so important to understand what's there now and to show you really why we are doing this. I could describe it, but it's best shown with photographs. Which button is it? Yeah, I'm doing that. There we go. I'm trying here. There we go. You got it? Okay, thanks. Okay, if we could pause on this slide. So this is a really important part of the project. As you can see there on the right, there's a keep out wastewater treatment sign, and it has plenty of bullet holes in there. But this is really a central point to why I think this matters. This is an old 1970s lagoon. So when that was created, it basically had no regulations. DHEC wasn't even around. So the way I understand it, it's kind of like a multi-tiered filtration process. Excrement and wastewater goes in here, it sits there, gets pumped with chemicals, dechlorinated, and then it leaches out into the creek behind it. It needs to go. It needs a lot of work, and that's such an important part of why I think we need to connect utilities to this site so that we can sunset this. I've been speaking with DHEC about the process and how to sunset that permit and remediate this and get rid of it. I know some of the neighbors I've spoken to say they can hear it, they can smell it, it's a mosquito bed. Really nobody wants this thing, and so this is an important piece of this project. So this is a video just so not everything is a photograph here, but this is the front of the property. It's potholes. This is frankly the nicer side of it. It keeps on going towards the back. And it's just, that's the entrance. It's right there on Highway 5. So I was thinking to myself that I can't just show you what's there, and I can't just render an image of what I want. I have to also try to portray what I really want to do and what it'll look like once it's on the ground. So I had an artist go out and do some renderings of like cross-section views of what it would look like when it's done. And you can see all that shortly, but at the same time, that's still only an image, it's a depiction. I really want something more real so you guys can see it. I can prove to you that it's a real possibility to have this. So this next slide here, one more here. So before you hit play, this is Glen Laurel. This is a community up in Concord, kind of on the border, Concord, Charlotte. I encourage y'all to go look at this, but this is the best comparison to what I have planned here. It's not a one-to-one. I think we do a few improvements on this, but I'd really encourage any of y'all to go look at this. This is what clean, safe, and quality housing could look like if it's done properly. So we hit play, please. This is the entrance I want to mimic on Highway 5 and get rid of what we have now. At the end of the day, it's just a community, it's just a neighborhood. The only difference is the house is there. You know, they're still clean, they're still safe. The grass is mowed, trash is picked up. It's just families trying to get by in an affordable environment. So hit the next slide. These are some of those artist renderings I was talking about earlier. So I had an artist do to scale what we have planned. And you know, we actually have a few improvements planned over that project over in Concord. This one's gonna have crosswalks, it's gonna have sidewalks. We've got street trees, street lights, paved roads, host of other amenities that you can't see in this picture, walking trails, dog parks, playgrounds. You know, you got to think about it from my perspective. How do I take something that has a lot of prejudice and a lot of just frankly classism against it and, you know, make folks comfortable with it? And my solution is really to make it as premium as possible, you know, and we still want to maintain that affordability. But if you have these amenities and keep that community vibe, you can keep a community from falling into disrepair, right? You can have a sense of pride and ownership and family, and you can come home, you can grill out in our public areas. We're going to have, you know, we're going to have so much space to do awesome things in that parcel because we're tripling the amount of green space that we're required to do by code. Next slide, please. Another cross section. You can see the sidewalks here, the landscaping, parking. You know, some will be oriented this way. I like them when they're oriented long ways, but it'll be a mix. Here's some of the amenities that I spoke about. So, you know, we're gonna have a fishing pond in the middle. I think that's gonna be an awesome addition to it. Playgrounds, little cookout area, picnic. We have a lot of green space, like I said, so I'd love to do a ball field there as well. And then, you know, on the bottom left, you can see the trash pickup needs to be centralized. So instead of having just a bunch of trash on the side of the road like what you have now, and you saw the pictures earlier, you know, we have the maintenance centralized. So if you have a tenant who's not, you know, keeping their upkeep, you can yell at me. You don't have to go chase them down individually as tenants, right? So I'll be responsible for all that. Next slide. So we're gonna zoom out now. This is the why. This slide really goes without saying. Everyone knows this, but you know, it helps to see it again. Average home prices are skyrocketing over the last 50 years. Meanwhile, we have median household income just completely stagnant. And the gap's just getting bigger. That's 2020. I mean, it's 2022 now. We all know what's happened over the last 2 years. So, you know, something's got to give. You can see below, you know, comparable prices, comparable monthly payments. This is a way to make housing affordable. And I always say that if you want to have the most expensive way to build something, you take a team of people, you go to a site, and you assemble it by hand. That's what site-built homes are. But if you're going to make something affordable, you need to have economies of scale, and that's what manufacturing does. And modern manufacturing homes are modern marvels. They're really, really well done. I cannot recommend enough just going to a dealer, walking through it, they'll show you. You'll be blown away by how beautiful they are. And I have pictures coming up later of that as well. A few more stats from MHI. So that 81,900 figure, that's an average new sales price for a manufactured home. It's 1,400 square feet. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. So same 2x4s you have in your own site-built house. And frankly, I've learned these stats are a little old. So that site-built home at 119, obviously it's gone up. But the theme here, as you can see, is that when you add the economies of scale to it, you're at half the cost. And you have quality housing that's beautiful, and you can put it in a neighborhood like this, and you can make it safe and clean. Next slide, please. So just a few more stats. I won't go through them all. But you know, most people, they buy these homes, and these are their actual homes. You know, 62% want to live in there for more than 10 years. It's not transient people who are in and out. You know, 38% say they'll never even sell their manufactured home. And they're regulated. There's a variety of financing options, and then a little bit of myth busting here on the right. So they retain their value really well. If you look at the graphs there, you got site-built and manufactured homes. I mean, at the end of the day, it's gonna, you know, come down to how well you take care of it, where it is. It's just like anything else. So the plan here is to basically start from scratch. I have a few things listed out here, but I'll show you those pictures on the right first. These are not renderings. Those are actual images. And like I said, if you go inside of one of these dealerships, they'll show you how unbelievable they are. I mean, they really are technological marvels. And again, we want to put these exact homes in this picture in this community. So, you know, brand new homes, paved roads, sidewalks, curb gutter, street trees, street lights, walking trails, a fishing pond, playgrounds, dog parks, grilling areas, community center. It's just, if you are trying to back into a project and try to predict all the things that someone might have a problem with, that's basically what I've tried to do, right? I've tried to go above and beyond in terms of, really any other community in the area. And like I said, I'm pretty proud of what we've done here. We have that tree buffer around the property. I believe it's a little bit bigger than what we're required to do. Obviously, I said the landscaping and the trash falls on me. And then obviously the most important part, just environmentally, is we get to get rid of that 1970s wastewater lagoon system that's leaking into the creek. So this is I didn't really get to say this at the Planning Commission. I can only really respond to things that they asked me directly, and they didn't ask me this question. But this is a very low density project in terms of what manufactured housing communities typically are. So what's on the site now, right now, is 6.3 per acre, right? Down the road at Adna Hills, that's almost 7 an acre. We're at 2.6 per acre. So I've kind of predicted the issue here, but at the end of the day, that's my most proud thing about this project, is that I think I can do this affordably while retaining a low density project, right? And the number sounds big in a vacuum just because you hear that raw number, and I think it kind of makes folks tighten up a little bit. But you got to remember that there's 63 lots on the parcel now. So the net increase is much lower. It's really 349 over 155 acres, right? We're not squeezing onto some 60-acre lot somewhere. These are going to be low density. And in fact, the Glen Laurel parcel that y'all saw the video of, that's 3 an acre. Ours is going to be even less dense than what you saw in that video. So it's frankly a unicorn, in my opinion, in terms of quality, low density, and affordability as well. And then again, right here, that's the entrance to, when you drive by Highway 5, you'll see that that entrance. Again, pictures really don't do it justice. You got to go look at it, but I kind of like that Glen Laurel entrance. I'm sure y'all do too. So I'd love to put a big old American flag there, make this beautiful, grandiose entrance with landscaping, a new name, and just make it something that we're proud of on Highway 5 instead of what it is up there now. So the final points, I'm not trying to replace a site-built home, really. I'm trying to be an alternative to rentals. So there's so many folks right now who are basically just permanent renters because they can't afford their own home. And that's why I think this model is not only good for new families trying to start out, but to have the ability to own your own home. I'm agnostic as to where it comes from. If they want to go to Clayton and get it, as long as it's new and quality, they can put it on our lots. So they can build equity in something. And every month they have that payment, and they're not just throwing it all away on rent. They have the ability to go and build some kind of equity. And maybe one day they save up enough money, they don't want to be in this parcel anymore, they got an acre down in York somewhere, they can go just move it off, and that'd be great because we could put newer, even nicer homes there one day. It's kind of like a hybrid model, and I think it'll really help that just American dream of home ownership. It's also going to be phased. Obviously, I'm not going to come here tomorrow and slap all these homes on there. It's a risk, obviously, you can develop it in the first place, but I think that there's a need for this, and I think the market will react appropriately. But this will be a multi-year project for maybe 5-6 years. It'll come slowly, and a neighbor actually had a great idea that we're going to adopt. So obviously the folks that are living there, they're there for a reason. They need to live somewhere. They need affordability. So the idea is to develop around the existing parcel and then give those folks the first right of refusal for the new homes in the new community. So we're not trying to kick anyone else on the street or to be homeless, right? There'll be a transition for those who want it, an ample opportunity to move out if they don't want it. And the theme, it's just everyone deserves their own home. So that's what I've hoped to communicate today. There's another picture of what it actually does look like. If you don't mind, let me just check real quick on my notes to make sure. So the long-term use plan, I understand that it doesn't comply perfectly with that. And I've tried to, like I said, reduce that density to 2.6 in order to make sure that we're not, just, like I said, if we put utilities there, it could be something like 7 or 8 an acre. We're not doing that. We're doing 2.6. So I don't think by greenlighting this, you're giving the go-ahead to say, hey, every parcel can go put, this kind of density anywhere. But I do think this is very much of a unique project where it doesn't make sense to only look at it in terms of, oh, look what they're doing, look what they're going to put there. You have to understand what's there now And that's why so many of the folks have been knocking doors all weekend over the last few months, and so many folks say, yeah, I know that place, and you're gonna fix it? Great, we've been waiting for that. That thing is bringing down our property value, right? So overall, I think most people are really excited about it. I've spoken to a lot of folks who are really excited about it as well. And like I said, I'm from here, so I wanna be proud of what I put here. And that's all
Thank you,
I got.
sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor? If you want to speak, you got to come state your name and give your address.
Madam Chair, I don't have a dog in this hunt. I'm from Spartanburg County, but my corporate office, which I do have here in York County. My question to the gentleman is, if I'm reading him correctly, and I think I am, what he's saying is you got 500 and some odd acres that he's trying to build on at 2.6 acres to put 2.6 homes to build on that 1 acre, which is almost a third of an acre. And my other question is what is the normal income for the folks that live here in York County? That's the only questions that I have. Like I said, I don't have a dog in the hunt, but it's just, something don't add up.
Thank you, sir. Anyone wish to speak in favor?
Hi, my name is Vincent Maloko, and I actually live at 975 McAfee. I came down to just get some information and see the map and see what they were going to talk about. Gentleman's right. The living conditions there are not great. A lot of the people there are low income, working people that can't afford a $200,000 home or a mortgage, and I think it's a good idea. I like the idea that he's going to give us a first opportunity once they start the development, and they're going to work on the other side with the new entrance, and then give us an opportunity when the time arises to start moving us out of there when they're ready to move into the area where we are now. I'm actually, when you saw the video, I'm in the first house on the left-hand side. So I actually have the best place in the entire park, and it's still not that great, as you can see by looking at it. I'm grateful for an investor to come out to make an opportunity for, there's people out there that want to have a nice place to live, someplace that's clean, that doesn't have trash all over the place, somebody that's gonna invest their money and take their risk on the community to lift it up a little bit, give it a facelift. Because if you guys have driven down there, check your shocks and or drive a truck, because the ruts in there will get you. And just the one thing that I didn't see on any of the plans that I wish that they would take into consideration is when you're heading, I guess it would be southbound on the 5, to make a turn lane to come in to the entrances, only because when you go to turn right, people don't want to give you time. And I can't tell you how many times I've almost been rear-ended just going into my driveway to get into the park. That was the only thing that my main concern. And then when you're coming the other direction, if there's some way of widening the road right there to make accommodations for a turn lane to get in and out, because if we're gonna have that many people in the community, we need a safe way to get in and out of there. Otherwise, you're gonna have a lot of traffic accidents in that area, because you guys know Austin, you guys know that that's a heavy traffic spot for accidents, right? Right there, always, because it's on the crown. People can't see the cars coming from the other side, and there's a lot of collisions in that spot. People don't drive 55 down there. Some people drive 45, and some people drive 70. And that's a dangerous spot for those of us that are going to be living in the area. I would like to talk to you afterwards as well. But I just want to say that I'm in favor of it, because being relatively new to the area and wanting a nicer place to live, because we've been looking for a place. You can't find a place anywhere that's less than 180,000, 200,000, and that's not even in a good neighborhood anymore. And I moved out here from Colorado hoping that I would be able to find affordable housing, something that I could, you know, pay my bills and enjoy my life with my family. Instead of just paying bills and grinding every day. But it's, you know, I'm just glad that somebody's ready to invest into the area and to give us an opportunity. Many other people that, like myself, that would take advantage of it and appreciate it. So
Thank you, sir.
I just want you guys to take into consideration that just one of the people that live there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else in favor? Is there anyone who wishes to speak against this rezoning request?
Good afternoon. My name is Larry Miller, and I live in the adjacent property of the thing that's in question. And let me share something with you, if I may. This elderly gentleman had a son, and the elderly gentleman had some acreage, some cows, cattle, other type of farm animals, had a big farm. And he told his son, he said, when I pass on, this will be yours. The elder gentleman had gotten up to some age. Excuse me. The young man looked at it and he was thinking, man, I could really do something with this. I could change this, build bigger barns, sell some of this off, build homes for other people, rent them out. And he said, yeah, Dad, he said, this is going to be nice. So the older gentleman held up a piece of plain glass. He said, look through this, son, and tell me what you see. He said, yeah, I see the acreage we have and all the cattle and the farm animals. He said, I see a lot of potential out there. So the old gentleman put some silver on the back of the glass. He said, look at this, son. He said, what do you see now? He said, I see myself. The elder gentleman said, what a difference a little bit of silver makes. I sit here and listen to what the gentleman has proposed, and it looks good. I promise you, it does. But I'm reminded of the old carrot in front of the donkey. The donkey sees the carrot, and boy, he really tries to get it, but he never can quite get to it. And the lady talks about affordable housing. That is affordable housing for some of those people. That is the best that they can do. So what are you going to do with these people? You're going to run them off their lots, and then they become homeless. Where are you going to put them? What are you going to do with that place? He's got big ideas, sure, and it sounds good, it looks good. And if I want to project something to you and I want your favorability on what I want, I'm going to show you the best I have. I'm going to put up slides. Look at this, look at this. Look what I have to offer these people. But those people can't take advantage of that. I'm sorry. I have gone down through there on occasions. And yes, it's deplorable. It's not the best in town, but it's the best those people can do. And what's he going to do? Put up houses, or put up double wides? He's going to swap a trailer park for a trailer park? I'm sorry, but that's the mentality of us people, and I say us because I'm included. Who wants a mobile park next to your home? I don't. I'm sorry, but eventually it will deteriorate and take down the value of my home. So my question to him is, what is he looking through, the plain glass, or is he looking at himself in the mirror? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else who wish to speak against? I would ask that folks please come forward. Thank you, sir.
Staff, thank you for your time. I'm John Arnett. I live at 1452 Dove Landing Road. My property backs up to it. And for the same thing, Mr. Miller, what are they going to do with the people that's there? Because affordable housing, I don't know if anybody's priced some of these manufactured homes. They're not all that much more affordable than a regular house. So where are the people going to go? 349 units coming in, 2 kids, that's 700 kids. Where are you going to put them in the schools? The transportation, the traffic, the utilities, where's it coming from? Where's the sewer going to go if they got it proposed to come in? The nearest wastewater treatment plant I know of is over on Ecology Lane. Are y'all trucking it down there? Where's it going?
Thank you, sir. Anyone else opposed?
Needham. I live in Dove Landing also. I've been through McAfee Trailer Park hundreds and hundreds of times. For years, I leased the land around the park from the current owner for hunting land. And I have seen everything in that place, from drugs to the garbage to everything else. You know, there's houses in there that's run down. They need to be replaced. There's no doubt about that. It could be like it is. It could be cleaned up. The cess pond at the back, it is trash. I agree with that. But if the state were doing what they were supposed to do, that cess pond wouldn't be leaking like it is currently. They talk about the price of the homes at $51,000. My fifth wheel costs more than $51,000. He hasn't talked about the price that they're gonna charge for the rent for the lot. They gotta bring in a home and put it on that lot. They're not just getting that house, they gotta pay that rent also. And as we all know, a mobile home does not increase in value. I started in one. I paid less, or got less for it than what I bought it for when I sold it in 1994. I've worked hard to get where I am. I've built a business in this county, and I don't want to see this happen in this county. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Good evening. Tommy Feemster, 2746 York Highway. Our family owns land on the, I guess it would be the north side. The general commercial, my uncles had a body shop at one time. Another uncle had a welding shop. That's why it's general commercial, but they're not doing that anymore. But the concern that I have would be with the turn lanes. I think there's a proposal to move one of the main entrances to the downhill side if you're coming from Rock Hill, where you go past the trailer park down the hill, that was going to be the main access, and the current or I guess the Rock Hill side was going to be gated off. So my concern would be is if you're looking back toward York, you got to look back up the hill with people coming down the hill to turn out, make lefts out. If it was going to be there, I would rather it be at the top of the hill where people are coming to the crest of the hill, making a left out, and that would probably be some major clearing on the south side of Highway 5 on the trailer park side. So make sure they had good sight distance, and that would be the concern that I had. I understand the need for affordable housing, but back in the 80s, I guess we kind of had the same thing where people would rent a lot, couldn't make payments on their home, and then it would get moved, and then somebody else, it would just recycle. So I guess I can see the mobile homes coming in and out. You know, with that many in there, there's going to be some turnover, and that would be my concern. As well as when they talk about the lot size, I think the minimum size is 2,000 square feet for the lot. If you look at the site plan, they all look consistently almost the same size. So that doesn't leave, you know, all the trees are going, it's condensed in there. So that would be my concern, but the traffic would be the biggest thing. And especially Shiloh Road. There's a lot of complaints about that. People wanting a signal, having a hard time getting out in the morning with long lines of traffic that come through in the morning. So that would be my concern.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak against before we close the public hearing?
Move to close.
Second.
Motion and a second to close public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, public hearing is closed. Do we have a new motion?
Move to approve first reading with the conditions that staff recommended for the applicant to redo the area plan and zone.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Winkler?
I met with this applicant probably over a year ago and talked about it at that time, and I told him that on the surface, I liked what he was talking about and what he was doing. You know, I had not ridden up in McAfee Mobile Home Park until after he came by, and I met with him and looked at it. I don't mean this in a negative way toward the gentleman who lives in there, but I could not believe that people were actually still living in some of those homes up in there, and the condition that was allowed to be done in there. And I felt like this would be a step up. Now, I did tell the gentleman that he had an uphill battle to get anything done with this, because there's a lot of homes around there that probably were going to come out against it and would not support it. I asked you to try to get in front of that as much as you could and meet with them. I did hear that you started meeting with them. I heard this past weekend. I was really hoping you would have been meeting with them way before that to try to stem, because I can tell you, you know, what everybody hears is 400 mobile homes. And I'll have to say, probably my memory, because it's not as good as it used to be, but when we met, I thought it was about 300 mobile homes, but maybe that was the difference, and I don't, you know, my memory's not what it used to be. I've talked for 8 years sitting up here, and I'm getting ready to rotate off council, but I've talked about affordable housing, and I have volunteered at Pathways in Rock Hill to help with the homeless. There's a young lady from Fort Mill who did a museum presentation. I'm not sure exactly what you would call it. I know Joel came out and saw it, and a few others, about homelessness in York County and in the country. And, you know, what I found in volunteering at Pathways and from that presentation was that many of our homeless, and from ones that I've volunteered with, we've helped a few that attended our church and stuff, that many of them are working homeless. You know, we hear about minimum wage and a new adjusted $15 minimum wage or whatever. I've done a few just back of the napkin numbers, and a person who makes $22 an hour by current recommended standards can pay about $1,144 a month for rent, or slightly less than that for a home if they're buying, depending on whether or not they have the mortgage in there, the interest, a lot rent, which adds on to that, other things like that. And I can tell you from my children, I've got 3 children with young families, you can't find anything to rent for $1,100 a month anywhere, unless it's a very small something that unfortunately looks kind of like some of the stuff that's in the McAfee Mobile Home Park. So for them to be able to afford a home, it has to be priced somewhere in the neighborhood of $150,000 to $160,000. I can tell you there are no new homes being built in York County in that price range, period. So there is nowhere for people like my children who are in their mid to late 20s, maybe early 30s. Actually, a couple of them getting close. Oldest one's getting close to 40, but our young law enforcement and teachers that are trying to get started, there's nowhere for them to live in York County. I joke up here sometimes and say the affordable housing for York County now is Chester. And that's a shame, because people want to live in York County because of the schools and stuff. So I told them I thought on the surface this was a good project, but it is a project that has an uphill battle. And I've got concerns about the project as well, because the school district, in answer to your question, did have major concerns about that number of homes, because that area is zoned for Harold C. Johnson Elementary School, which is already above capacity. And so to add in another 400, 500, 600 kids in there is something that, would take a toll on the school district, and what is unfortunately the poorest, but I believe the best school district in York County. When you look at value of homes and that type of thing, that is the school district that struggles the most. So I have real mixed emotions on this. One thing that I always do in the 8 years I've been up here is always try to get something in my district or anywhere else that we can passed on a first reading. There's a reason that we meet and vote 3 times. One, it gives us time to hear from all of y'all, and I've heard from quite a number of you today on my phone while I was home fighting with a bad well pump and trying to get running water back in my house. And I always liked for the first reading to pass because it's part of the public hearing. I want to be able to hear from everyone, but also I want the applicant to have time to really try to do some community meetings. The applicant heard some concerns tonight that might not have heard before and be able to address those. I think you'll hear from up here. It's probably a pretty mixed bag on most of the council on whether or not they'll support this, and it'll get to a third reading. I don't honestly know at this point. I'm trying to be as honest as I can about it with all of you and the applicant, what I'm going to vote in the end of this, because I've got to listen to all of y'all. I've got to listen to that and try to make the best decision I can for the constituents, not just in District 3, but in York County, and what I believe is the best overall. And I've got a lot of concerns on both sides right now. So, but tonight I'm going to support first reading because I believe in getting through the first reading and letting people have time to voice their concerns and stuff. So.
Mr. Albert.
Okay, thank you, Robert. First of all, I want to just first state that mobile homes, how they're constructed and transported, the quality of those homes are very good. To be able to be on a road and to be able to transport those, I think you've seen, and I've actually done a tour of manufactured home site before where they're building them, and the way they construct them and the ability for them to travel across roads, they are much improved, and I just want to share that with you. I'm going to be open-minded about this project here. Tonight, I'm not going to support this tonight, but I am going to be open-minded about this. I just want to point out a few statistics here. When we talk about impact on the schools, first of all, we're probably looking at, from a capital expenditure, about $22 million in capital costs when you look at half of a middle school or half of an elementary school, et cetera. When you start looking at the cost of bringing in 20 teachers, that's about $1.2 million. That, again, this is additional cost to the area. When you start also looking at a location, and it concerned me as we were going through the presentation, and the question I was going to ask is that these people will not own their lots. So when you look at the cost of the manufactured home on top of a lot rent, that can fluctuate with the amenities that were mentioned here. When you add that up, you're looking at a fairly high, most likely a fairly high rate. I can't say what it would be, but it is something that would concern me if we're looking at affordable housing. Those are my concerns. Tonight, I will not be supporting it, but I just want to express my concerns, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Mr. Govey.
Yeah, I'm going to take the approach that I always do, in the fact that the council member that represents the district was the person that was elected to represent the people of that area and feel like they are the ones making the best decision. So I am 100% for this, but I will not vote against Councilman Winkler should he decide to go against it in the future. We do have serious problems with gentrification within our community. Whenever myself and my wife got married 19 years ago, we bought a $100,000 home. That's impossible now. I've got a kid that just graduated high school. Where is he going to work to make enough money to be able to move into, whether it's an apartment, whether it's a mobile home, or whether it's a house within York County? The stat that 1 in 5 live in modular homes right now in the state of South Carolina, I can't see that even being a thing in York County. Growing up, I was in trailer parks from time to time. It was never an issue. The biggest problem is now those same trailers that were there whenever I was a kid 30 years ago are the ones that are still there, which is the reason I brought up the point about being able to move a trailer. A lot of these modular home parks are dilapidated due to not being able to move them out and move something else in. That is something that I have a serious concern about. If you're just renting the lot and the people come in and they buy this modular home, let's say it takes them 7 or 8 years to build up to save to buy an acre to move that modular to, how are they going to be able to do that if our ordinance doesn't allow it? I do believe that these unique stressful times, we've got to come up with unique solutions. I think this is a tremendous solution. It reminds me of the little, I call them retirement communities, but the little modular home communities as you're going to the beach. Those people are not complaining about how it's affecting their home values. They're nice, they're upkept. Being a business owner and having hourly workers, another problem is we can't find workers around here because people can't afford to live. That becomes an issue. So of course, cost of doing business goes up through that as well. I do also have a concern about the entrance. I notice with the volume of homes, you've got to have more than one entrance. You cannot have one entrance according to our current ordinances. So the plan that is before us, I'm not looking at it as far as approving the plan. I'm looking at it as approving or an improvement on the land that is currently there. So.
We'll start down the end. Mr. Rowdy.
She wants to go last. She's taking it all in. First, I want to say I met with this applicant, just as Robert did, almost a year ago or somewhat, and I was blown away by the presentation of what he was looking to do in the area that I drive by and been driving by for the last 20 years, whether I'm coming to York or going out to Blacksburg to get on 85. And of course, over the years, that area has deteriorated. That entrance, that mobile home park has deteriorated. And I knew once I saw the presentation, I was able to pull out some things that I liked about it, and later hear some concerns of some of the neighbors that could be addressed. One thing that he didn't mention that jumped out for me was that he's not going to drag in 400 mobile homes or manufactured homes and become landlord and rent them. This is not something that he envisions of happening. There's not 400 trailers waiting to be pulled into York County as soon as we say yes. He's got to get the infrastructure there. He has to mitigate the sewage pond there. And to put these mobile homes on water and sewer is much improvement. I'm familiar with a mobile home park over off Avenue Church Road. There's about 130, 140 mobile homes there. I've driven up in there. It has the blacktop, but it doesn't have sidewalks. It doesn't have curb and gutter. It's basically the owner actually owned all the units, and he was renting them out, playing landlord and landowner. He kept it immaculate. He was a good landlord, but at the same time, those people were still in a rental situation that they would never be able to own, that they would never be able to call their own, or put any equity. It's just as good or bad as renting an apartment. When someone says that you'll never own that mobile home because you're having to pay a lot fee, well, the same can be said about owning a stick-built home. We never own that home fully because we pay property taxes every year. So some of the same comparisons can be made, good or bad, for or against any lifestyle. The thing that also jumped out was the affordability. I fought for tiny homes in the city of Rock Hill. We've talked about tiny homes up here with York County. We have yet to make a move on what we can truly say this is affordable. And to me, affordable means it's below the average rate of going for the cost of living. Apartments in Rock Hill, 2 bedrooms, $1,200, $1,300, $1,400. Fort Mill, I can't believe what the rate is in Fort Mill on a single-family home, stick-built in Fort Mill. If you find a home less than $400,000 in Fort Mill, I'll buy it today. It's not happening. So we sit up here, and I've been here for 12 years, and I've fought what I think is a good fight to address some concerns that affect the left community, the right community, the community down the middle. We have yet to even approve anything remotely close to what is deemed affordable. I have a 26-year-old daughter, no children, makes $13, $14 an hour. She has to stay with mom and dad. She has to stay with mom. She can't afford to go out and spend $1,200, $1,300 a month to get her own place. That's no fault of her own, but years ago, you could take $13, $14 an hour and be able to afford a decent place and pay your bills and live a little, maybe go to Carowinds with your family. So I really like several pieces of what he's offering. It's an immaculate plan, and I was telling my wife about what we was looking at tonight. I say this mobile home manufactured community is gonna look just like our community that I live in. Paved streets, curb and gutters, sidewalks. The only difference is the family's gonna be in a manufactured home versus a stick-built. If this was a stick-built home on 155 acres with a density of 2.6, we would approve it hands down because the tax value would be millions on top of millions of dollars. And it's easy for anyone to come in and assume that every single mobile home or manufactured home buyer or resident is gonna put 2 or 3 kids in the school. Because if my daughter moves there, she don't have any kids. And we're talking about a project over, I think you said maybe 5, 6 years. So when we hear impacts on the schools and we hear what it costs to build an elementary school, this is not gonna cause the city of York or the school district of York to go out and build an elementary school because he's bringing or wanting to do 400 units. Over time, those same students that may start out in school by the time this project is finished will be out of school. We can't use the one size fit all to say this is a problem, because there are things that's gonna happen good with this project coming through. There's gonna be some things that may not work out as well. This is an immaculate plan. You all seen the same thing that I saw months ago, and it hasn't changed. He hasn't backed down from the cost of going up to do some of the things that he wanted to do. But if this was 200 slots in this park, now we're talking about how much is it gonna cost to rent one slot. The cost comes down as the number of lots available goes up. That's common business practice. If we were building a 100-home neighborhood with only 100 lots, and I had to run water and sewer there, I would have to charge more for those lots versus if I was building that same neighborhood offering 200 homes, I could sell those lots a little cheaper. So that's the business model. And yeah, some people are concerned about the stereotype, what goes with a mobile home. Yeah, we know certain people with the image or the stereotype of who moves into a mobile home. But right now, we have teachers who can't afford a decent lifestyle in York County. A statistic that Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and everybody recommends is that you don't pay over 30% of your income when you're purchasing a home. We all know that. We have people renting right now who are paying 40% of their income to rent in York County. These are facts. This manufactured home park is not gonna solve that for everybody, but we have to start at least considering some alternatives to, I know every one of us up here, our home's over $400,000. I can about guarantee that. Should we not be concerned about those who can't afford that lifestyle, that living, have that income? It would be an injustice for us to just turn away and say, nope, we don't want that in York County. But what does it take for York County people to live in York County? Because I heard an example from the Rock Hill School District that if we don't do something soon, their cafeteria workers won't be able to live in York County. Their janitors won't be able to live in York County. Their support staff won't be able to live in York County. And do you think they're gonna drive from Chester, Lancaster? They can't live in Fort Mill. They may have to move to Blacksburg. Do you think they're gonna continue to drive to our school districts to continue to make a mediocre salary while having to live in Blacksburg or Chester or Lancaster? So we have to take in consideration the total community of what we want here. That Chick-fil-A worker that we all like to drive up with that friendly smile and get that Chick-fil-A just as fast as you can get it out the oven, those workers cannot afford to live here. The manager maybe, and every 16, 17-year-old probably may still be working there when they're 22, 23 years old. We have people graduating college who are still coming home and having to take jobs that are not paying half of what they paid into getting a college degree. These are the realities. These are what we have to take into account, not just a 2035 comp plan that may or may not come to fruition for one particular piece of property. It's a shot in the dark when you say, we see this area being XYZ by 2035. We've had more people come since we approved that comp plan for 2035 to say, hey, this area is not what you laid it out to be, but this is what the demand is pushing for it to be. And we've said yes to some of those, we've said no to some of those. To me, does this plan need some more work on it to satisfy some of the neighbors? Certainly. But right now, you can't deny that it's affordable. You can't deny that it's an upgrade. You can't deny that some of the things that would mitigate that's going on in that community, some things that these residents are having to deal with every single day will be eliminated. To me, that checks a lot of boxes. Are there some boxes that we need to X off and put a check in? That's why we have 3 readings. This applicant wants the opportunity to continue to check those boxes, remove those X's that so many have stood here and said was a concern. We do this so often. Sometimes I think people get numb to the fact that we make critical life decisions when it comes to what's going on here in this community. It can be as easy or as difficult, but at some point, what's on paper doesn't always work. What's in your heart, what you feel is right for an area, will probably have a better chance of working than what we can ever put on a piece of paper that's projecting what's going to happen in 2035. So I wish him luck. It's still an uphill battle. You know, I think this thing has a lot of good points. I do think you're going to have to continue to work the neighbors and ease some concerns, but I'm willing to give it my support tonight. I just good luck with it. I think it's something that if other areas have an opportunity to see what you're wanting to do, they probably come calling saying, bring that to our area, because we have some areas that need to be cleaned up. We have some people who can't afford the $300,000 homes that the going rate is demanding. So good luck. I'll support it tonight, and I hope we're able to work something out, whether it's on the numbers, but the density, people, 2.6 per acre. I can about guarantee you there hasn't been a developer in this chamber in years that can say their density is only 2.6 per acre. It's been a while. I support it.
Mr. Hamilton.
I'm going to keep it very brief because some other council members have been far more eloquent than I could possibly be this evening. But I will say, you know, we do have a problem in this county, and that's, you know, our average income is around $50,000, but the average home value is over $270,000. So, but that's a factor of 5x. The average person can't afford a home in York County. And it's not just, and we like to think, oh, it's, you know, a certain segment of society. It's the average. It's the average person in York County. And we're smart enough to know that prices are just a reflection of 2 things, supply and demand. We are blessed to have a whole lot of demand for people who want to live in York County. There's no shortage of that. But what there is obviously a shortage of, if our average home value is 5 times our average income, is that we have a shortage of supply. We have a supply issue. And that's especially true in a certain segment of the market where it's difficult to access an option to build equity. And equity in a home is, frankly, I mean, that's the American dream. Where do you go from there? Well, maybe looks like a lot of these folks, 38% want to hold on to their home forever, and good for them. But some people may want to take that equity and use it to build a bigger home for their family or buy a bigger home for their family. And if you're spending 40% of your income on rent, you'll never be able to save up the down payment to be able to do that. And, you know, that's just a problem if we're telling the average person in York County that, I'm sorry, the American dream doesn't apply to you. You don't get to buy a home because you're going to pay 40% of your income in rent, and you'll never be able to save up enough money to buy a home. So I'm glad that there's some equity option out there for people in this county. And, you know, I wish that we had more foresight and more acceptance and awareness of what the market actually is and where the market is moving and what we actually need in this market. You know, everybody wants to build the $1 million houses. I can tell you, especially in Fort Mill, I mean, I saw a house listed in Mason's Bend for $1.3 billion in Mason's Bend. So, you know, that's not, I mean, it's a beautiful neighborhood, but that's not a 10,000 square foot house on the lake. You know, there's a difference there. So we know where the market's going. Everybody wants to see that construction, but what we actually need is a place for the average person in York County to live. And I think this is a step in the right direction.
Ms. Love. I think one of the important things that we don't want to do is be reactive on something in favor of affordable housing. We all know that there is an issue with affordable housing, but yet in our comp plan, we never spelled out anything that says, hey, this is where we're going to put affordable housing. So now we wait for it to come to us, and that's reactive. Instead of planning for where should we put 400 mobile homes, we don't know where to put them. So we wait for somebody to come here for a rezoning, and then we go, well, let's argue affordable housing for a little bit. Let's all argue about this. Let's listen to the neighbors that are for it and the neighbors that are against it and figure out, should we have made that a place for affordable housing, such as mobile homes, 400 of them. I'm in agreement with Robert Winkler tonight, and that is that there are some concerns. You know, it all sounds great, and when somebody drives through your neighborhood and you live in something that looks like this, I guarantee that had I stopped and talked to people when I drove through this last week, the one thing that they probably would have had in common was hope. And I have hope for them, because I don't know where they're going to go, because I don't believe that they are going to move from this into the pictures that you saw tonight. I don't believe that they are even hardly going to be able to probably afford not only the mobile home, but the land that they're going to be paying to put a mobile home on. 38% of the people never sell their mobile home. So what we're doing is we're cleaning the slate, and we're working our way back to this. And I'm going to say one more thing, and it's not personal, because the people here tonight are not the people that I'm referring to. But York County has failed these residents, because nothing in this county should be allowed to look like this. We're sitting up here tonight, and we are worried about people and what they can afford. But we have failed these people, because this is what they're going home to today. And if you haven't ridden through here, it is shocking. I'm embarrassed that we've allowed this in York County. And I feel like, you know what, we do have to do the right thing for the people. The Planning Commission recommended that this developer go back and lower the density. I'm not familiar with a traffic study, but there is a lot of traffic on Highway 5, because it took me a long time to get back out of the neighborhood. You know, I think we also have to determine, are we going to have homeowners or are we going to have tenants here? You know, a homeowner is somebody that can afford to go out and buy a mobile home, and a tenant is somebody who moves into one and pays rent. And that's two very different things, because what we're talking about tonight is hopefully we're going to have homeowners. And I'm not sure about that. The people who spoke against this tonight covered a lot of the things that I had made notes on and jotted down. So I just want to look back over this and be sure that I haven't missed anything. I was on the Comprehensive Land Use Committee for about a year and a half before I was on the Zoning Board of Appeals and then on council. You know, what's supposed to be there is probably half to 1 acre lots in that area. That is what's there. So when the developer comes up in front of us and he compares mobile home developments to what he's going to put here, that's not the comparison I'm looking for. I'm looking for the comparison that says, hey, this mobile home versus what's around this mobile home. Those are two very different pitches, in my opinion. I think that the school district is something to consider. We've got one school district with an $18,000 impact fee in place. We've got one school district with an impact fee that's probably a little too low in place in my district. And we've got a school district asking for an impact fee that we have not approved for them yet. 400 mobile homes is a big impact to the York School District. And I think we need to consider that because right now we are ahead of approving any impact fee. So I agree with you that that's a major consideration. And I agree that it's got to get through tonight because I think there's some more work to do between tonight and the second reading. But I just want to end with something that comes from my heart. The easiest people to take advantage of are the people who have hope. And I think that's where we are tonight. Thank you.
We've had a lot of discussion. We've got 4 more public hearings that we need to get through, but this is Mr. Winkler's district. I'll allow him to ask questions, but we're not reopening discussion.
Thank you. A couple of things. One, I want to make sure staff lets us know what our ordinance is on moving a mobile home. Because that was one of the things I liked about this was if somebody buys their mobile home and they're saving up equity to be able to buy a lot and move it out of there, I want to know if they're going to be able to or if they're going to be stuck there. And I want the applicant to think about what we can do to make sure it doesn't be somebody buying it, move it in there, and then turn it into a rental property. Because then we wind up with what we got now, and how we're going to keep that from happening 20 years from now. All these people are worried that it's going to look real good right now, and then 20, 30 years from now, it's going to look like it does again today. So those are concerns I have, and I think we need to address before the next meeting, just so that I can have a better feel for where I'm going to land on this thing. And the last thing I'll say is our police officers and teachers, many of them are in that $45,000 to $50,000 range, and they can't afford anything above, with one income above the $160,000 or $70,000 home, and there's none of those in the county. We all know that's a problem, but none of us want the problem fixed in our backyard.
It's clear that the majority has already decided that we're going to move forward with first reading, and I would do that too. Mr. Winkler represents his district. He is the one that answers to the people who live here, and so typically we defer to him, especially on first reading, to allow the discussion to happen. But I'll tell you, I have a problem with a lot of this. And my very first home that I lived in with my oldest daughter, who was a teacher and who has found a home in Sumter, was a single-wide mobile home in Lancaster. I have no problem with them. The problem I have is that this seems like a cash cow for the developer, and I'm not really sure it's affordable housing and a step up for the people that serve there. The questions that I want answered before second reading are this. The applicant has come up here and said that the lagoon is leaking into the creek. That, to me, is a violation that the owner of the property should already have fixed, should already have been reported, should already be done before anything comes in here. And to suggest that you're going to double the number of parcels on this property that's allowed by right without having to fix that from the start, that is a failure. I would agree that that's a problem. I would like an answer to that question from staff. I do think that I would like to know a little bit more about the rent, how that works in this concept, because we have a comprehensive plan that says only a certain number of homes should be there to begin with, and you're talking about 2.5 times the density of what the people in the community voted on in that area. That is a departure from what was already voted on. And I would like to know, what are the terms of leasing the property? How much is it going to cost? That is critical to this whole idea of, yeah, it sounds nice. It sounds like we think this is going to be more affordable. But the gentleman who got up and spoke, the mobile home I owned, the longer I owned it, the less it was worth. It comes with land ownership. Will these folks have an opportunity to own the land at any point? All those in favor of the motion for first reading, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Motion passes 6-1. We move now to number 2, rezoning action. Hold a public hearing and consider first reading case number 22-10, tax map number 592-02-01-122 and 592-02-01-123 to rezone from RSF 40 to OI, 1.72 acres in District 6. Mr. Bueno.
Yes, this one's a little bit more straightforward. So this property is at the intersection of Celanese and Twin Lakes. So the proposal is to go from RSF 40 to OI. There is an existing home on the property. It's my understanding it's been vacant for a number of years at this point, and the property owner at this time is looking to convert it into an office building. So that's the nexus of the rezoning request. Karen, if you could, yeah, thank you. So staff is recommending approval of this item, as is the Planning Commission, by an 8-0 vote. And normally, the neighborhood residential future land use category, that brown color that I mentioned previously that's on the right, that is really looking for the moderate density, single-family residential neighborhoods. But the future land use here does allow for commercial at intersections of major roads, and that's exactly what we have here, with the intent being of those commercial or office uses serving those residential neighborhoods. So that is the reason for the recommendation of approval.
Any questions from council? Thank you, Jonathan. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of this rezoning? Is there anyone who wishes to speak against?
Move to close.
Second.
Motion and a second to close public hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Do we have a new motion?
Move to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Number 3, rezoning. Hold a public hearing and consider first reading 22-11, tax map number 52500000012 to rezone from AGC to RUD, 14.02 acres in District 5. Mr. Bueno.
Yes, the proposals, as you said, from AGC to RUD, it's about 14 acres. There is existing manufactured homes on the site at any given time, either 5 or 6. The proposal is to subdivide the property into 11 separate lots, all of which are in excess of 1 acre. If I could advance this. There we go. So there's the proposed sketch of that subdivision. The green there would be the residential buffer that would be put in place. And just to give you another aerial look of what that proposed site would look like in context with the existing area. So you can see on the opposite side of Saluda Road and also further north on Autumnwood, there's very similar style of development there. The reason I mention that is the future land use category here is agricultural, so the first preference for that future land use category is, of course, to stay agriculture. But in this case, we do have existing residential lots on large lots opposite side of the road, and then again further to the north. And given the size of the lots, it complements the agricultural uses that are in the immediate vicinity. So this I wouldn't say substantially, but is satisfactory in terms of the comp plan.
Thank you, Mr. Bueno. This is obviously my district. I've had some folks reach out to me and question, and they've heard rumors that it's going to be ultimately used as a junkyard. Can you please comment on that?
I can. So the uses that are allowed in RUD, they're very limited. They have to either be farming related, such as keeping and raising of animals, farming itself, cultivating crops, or residential in nature. And really the only other use that doesn't fit into those two general categories would be a school.
So it cannot be a junkyard?
It absolutely cannot be a junkyard.
If you would, please make sure to identify if there are any other commercials other than what you talked about, a list of what would be allowed in RUD, so I could circulate that to the folks that reached out. I'd appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Any other questions of staff from council? Okay, thank you, Mr. Bueno. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of this request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak against?
I'm Gerald Matthews. I'm the neighbor of that property. I own one side and behind it, 1,700 foot approximately on it. This is ag land. I'd rather stay in ag land. The county council put it in ag land. I wish it would stay that way. It's we've been there for 40 years, and we don't want to see it develop especially they got 5 trailers over there now. So we got a bunch of, we living in a trailer park now that we didn't want to be part of, but we are because of York County Council, the way they've been zoning it. And I appreciate your time, and I have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Anyone else wish to speak against?
Move to close.
Second.
Motion and a second to close public hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, public hearing is closed. Do we have a new motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve first reading. Any discussion? Just for purposes of Mr. Matthews, since you spoke out, I would like to speak with you after the meeting, and we can reach out and communicate, and I would like to go take a look at the property with you and see what concerns you have. I will allow first reading because it takes 3 readings to get something passed, and there were a number of folks who reached out who were in favor of it once they learned that it was homes, and they were much more happy with that than with some other use that would have been a commercial use. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, first reading passes. Glasses on for this one. Council to hold a public hearing and provide second reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 154 Land Development Code, eliminating the open space requirement in the RUD and RUD1 zoning districts, extending the applicability of tree-safe sample surveys, limiting parcels created by recombination to a single zoning district, eliminating a development threshold for liability agreements, and clarifying provisions related to utility connections in open space lots. To amend Chapter 155 zoning code, reducing certain design standards for manufactured homes in the RSF 30 district, allowing beekeeping as an accessory use to a single-family detached dwelling, reducing the applicability of accessory structure standards in the Lake Wiley overlay, modifying the screening standards for vehicle storage and outdoor storage uses, clarifying measurement of setbacks, and modifying the definition of data center to provide for a public hearing and to provide for other matters relating thereto. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak against?
Move to close.
Second.
Motion and a second to close public hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, public hearing is closed. Do we have a new motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I move to, that the second reading be amended, approved and amended with the following amendment. That table 155.057-1, which is minimum widths of lots on arterial and collector roads, be revised to distinguish between arterial roads and major collector roads, such that the minimum lot is 150 on all major collector roads, and the minimum lot width for arterial roads is 350 for lots in AGC, AGC1, RUD, RUD1, RSF 40, 30, RMX 20, RMX 10, RMX 6, and 150 for lots zoned RC, NC, OI, GC, OA, RI, LI, and ID. If I can get a second, I'll explain why.
Can you repeat that?
One more time.
Second.
We do have a second. This is an amendment.
The reason is, those of you that have been on council for a little while, about 2 years ago, we had a whole big discussion about road frontage on roads, and some of the more rural roads in the western side of the county and some of Allison and Christie's areas were left at 150. That was the wish of council, 150 feet of frontage to be able to put the roads in, but on the more major type roads, it was 350. And this is something that was discovered in Recode, and I just recently found out about it, and Jonathan worked with me on this amendment. But when the consultant was doing the Recode, a couple of the tables got combined, and staff didn't catch it. I didn't catch it when we looked at it. That 700 pages or whatever that thing was, but it got combined to where our original intention for having those more minor roads with 150 feet of frontage, they got lumped into the larger roads and got a different frontage than what we'd intended originally. So this just puts us back to where it was before the Recode happened.
Any other discussion on the amendment?
I was just gonna say, I got a call from one of your constituents who I used to work with over here in Western York County, and he was running into this issue and I think staff may have been working with the gentleman, because he remembers it, of us saying about the 150, and all of a sudden now he's ready to do something with his property, and all of a sudden he looks and it's 350. And so I think this will kind of help clear up what our intentions were. But one thing and I've said this for a while since being on council, we don't always need to turn everything over to a consultant, because when we turn it over to a consultant, we don't know what they put in there. And we don't always get abreast to exactly every single detail of what the changes were. And I think that's why it's so important that what we're doing on the Planning and Zoning Committee, of going back through this recode, because we tasted the cake batter, but we didn't taste the individual ingredients that it went into, because if you just put the flour on your tongue or the raw egg on your tongue, you wouldn't like it. But the end product was pretty good, but now we're starting to go back and pull pieces out that really didn't fit what our intentions were, or had an adverse effect right away than what we hoped for on council. So we're doing that on the Planning and Zoning Committee, and we've already heard several issues that we're trying to correct. We don't always get it right. So we're glad we have the opportunity in the process to go back through this and address these.
David, Jonathan, you both agree that this is essentially what amounts to a clerical error to get us back to what council had decided previously. Is that correct?
That is
Okay.
correct.
All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the amendment passes. Any other discussion on the main motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Council to hold a public hearing and consider third reading of an ordinance to amend the Code of County of York, South Carolina, Chapter 51.05, Water and Sewer Rates and Charges, Terms and Conditions of Service, Section B2 and B10, in order to amend the water rate schedule and sewer rate schedule and to provide for other matters related thereto. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone who wishes to speak against?
Vote to close.
Second.
Motion and a second to close public hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, public hearing is closed. Do we have a new motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Winkler?
I'd just like a little clarification for the viewing audience out there as to why we are having to adjust these rates.
This rate increase, we're directly passing along only the increase in the rates that we're having to pay Rock Hill.
Thank you.
And in terms of that clarification, the increase in the water rates have gone up 80% in 7 years?
Yes, ma'am, approximately 80%.
And the only thing that the county is doing at this point is passing along that cost. We're not adding anything. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. We move now to old business, rezoning action, consider third reading, case number 22-08, tax map number 65500000011, 65500000057, 65500000083 to rezone from AGC and RMX 10 to RMX 6, 10.82 acres in District 7.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'll be brief. We've discussed this at length in our last meeting, and it's been a long night for everyone. But, you know, I couldn't resist pointing out or being struck by the irony that a lot of the opposition to this is apparently coming from a new neighborhood completed in the last 5 years that's an order of magnitude of 5 times greater than this proposal on a road that prior to that neighborhood was relatively rural and free of any development. And the folks in those 180 homes are now concerned with traffic. They don't want anyone else to be able to use the road that they moved to. Unfortunately, you know, it's kind of alarming that there is that opposition, but I think more alarming is that the attitude seems to be that this body's default position should be to tell people what they can't do, and that we should resort to central planning and intervention and authority. And I have to tell you, I'm unapologetically conservative, and I believe in free will and individuals to transact business as they please, and that it's up to government to intervene only when there is a compelling reason for them to do so. the exact opposite of what has been asked of us. And I can't just kind of let that go by without pointing out that this is a conservative district in a conservative county in a conservative state. And by definition, that means that we do believe in free will and individuals to conduct business as they see fit. And here we have, the property owners who wish to sell their property to a builder who's going to build a fantastic product in a price point that is needed in this area. And if there's not an impact to traffic, frankly, even if there was, the neighborhood across the street where a lot of the opposition seems to be coming from is 180 homes. So, if they were that concerned with traffic, maybe they wouldn't have bought a home in that neighborhood. And it rings hollow to me that that's where the opposition seems to be coming from. I'm going to continue to support this, and, I hope that we can get through third reading tonight.
Any other discussion?
Yeah.
Mr. Audette?
So, again, as a conservative myself, spending 8 years on the school board in Fort Mill, we saw extended growth through the roof. 1,000 new students a year, every year for 8 years. It was just off the chart. Because of that, the capital expenditures went through the roof. And that impacted not only businesses, but residents in the area. Extremely impactful on the area. And because of that, we, as a elected official, myself, want to stand and fight for the fact that our school district has been hammered, and we need to be able to manage this growth to lessen the impact on our school district. One thing I do want to share with you, okay, and I hope you join me tonight in opposition to this. 2015, the town of Fort Mill approved just down the road from here, which is just around the corner on Pleasant Road, 931 units to go in. 930. This was in 2015. This is 1 mile from where this proposed townhome project's going in. They just started digging ground as of a month ago to start putting in these units. We are talking an impact of 700 plus students that most likely are going to come out of these 900 units, 931 units that are currently going in here. We've got Pleasant Road Elementary right now, as it stands, and Pleasant Road Middle School ready to freeze. Okay, so we're talking alone because of a decision that was made in 2015 that they're just starting, probably an impact on the school district of probably $42 million to build a new school. All right. On top of that, we're probably looking at $3 million of operating cost. All right. The time of approval, as time went on 8 years ago, we never thought we'd have more students than Rock Hill, but we do. We have more students. Okay. We're a bigger district. And we, as a council member, it is critical we look at the impact because this is extended cost. So now we look at this new project coming in, trying to get approved in 2022, okay? The impact on this is going to be exponential on top of what's currently going to be going on down the road from this project, okay? When we have a road that is a 2-lane road, and I know that they talked about it didn't, the what we call the tariff or the road review it was approved. But I just want to share with you, it was estimated 550 cars will be on that road in addition to putting this project in place, okay? I want to also ask you, what is affordable housing? Okay, these units are 465,000 on a rough estimate, 460. Okay, I don't call that affordable housing. Okay, we've got a neighborhood across the road. Yes, they did come in years ago, but they got approved while things were not as impactful. But now we've got a school district that's in debt of capital expenditure cost, and we as council members need to stand, all right, in with them in order to manage the cost that's getting pushed out to the public. This is critical. The planning committee voted 7-1 to vote this, to deny this. The staff denied this. Okay, I'm asking you to join me tonight to deny this approval. Thank you, guys.
I'll go ahead. Yeah, so you hit me with something I was not anticipating at all. 900 new homes, was not aware of that. But 900 versus 48 is a significant difference. Mr. Madden, can you tell me what the cost to serve is?
It's approximately $330,000 per home.
Okay, so these units are $135,000 more than the cost to serve. The impact fees from that 900 homes that you said comes out to what, 15.3 million, which the purpose of that is to help out the schools. The residents directly around the property seem to want this. The council member that is over that district, that was elected to represent that district, wants this, so I will be in support of it.
Any other discussion? Mr. Roddy?
I never once heard the developer of this property come before us and say, hey, guys, I have an affordable housing project I'd like to bring to Fort Mill. If that would have ever been said, we would have laughed them out of this chamber, because there's no quote-unquote affordable housing options, even in Rock Hill, even in York. We just got finished discussing what was affordable housing, and to know what these units will be selling for, that has never been the push or the plight for this particular subdivision. And I didn't know that in 2015, those homes were approved. Does it make a difference? I don't think so, because those same numbers that was approved in 2015, the same group came in front of us to push for an impact fees because it was already slated to be built. So these numbers have already been before us to help sell this body to support an almost $20,000 impact fee. And to hear it come up now to say, well, this is gonna add to, we have to consider this. It's already been considered. And just as Brandon pointed out, every last one of those homes are gonna get hit with, I think the impact fee is $18,500, $19,000. It's gonna generate over, what did you say, $15 million? So to hear that, hey, our schools are gonna suffer, we're gonna be in a $20-something million deficit right away. It's still gonna take a long time, not a long time, but it's gonna take time for this development to build out. And I said it when we were talking about the manufactured home project. It doesn't guarantee that everybody's bringing 2.2, 2.3, whatever number of kids. We cut them in half by now. There are gonna be some husband and wife that don't have any kids. There are gonna be possibly some grandparents who don't wanna take care of a lawn, which a townhome is gonna provide these services, or don't wanna have to take care of exterior maintenance that grandma, grandpa, or someone who doesn't want to take care of a yard or don't have kids are gonna move here. So when we automatically throw out these numbers, statistically, it's used for X number of cars per house, X number of children per house. It doesn't always map out to be that way. Now, will someone have 3 kids? Possibly. Could someone have no kids? Possibly. We don't throw those scenarios out. We always go for the hard hammering. Numbers can be manipulated. We all know it. We all see it. We all have done it. And so some of the things that we have to combat when we are saying this is why we support it, or this is why we don't support it, we all know that numbers can be manipulated. But 48 townhomes, if we're that close right now to the Fort Mill School District collapsing, it's already collapsed. My wife runs a grocery store, and she says when customers bring something back to her store, they've been told to give them that dollar figure back plus another percentage. Because if it's gonna break that company for you bringing back that loaf of bread or that gallon of milk that was spoiled, if it's gonna bankrupt the company to do that, that company's already in trouble. And so I don't think the Fort Mill School District's in trouble when they're collecting almost 20 grand per house to help go fund the schools. We can't discount that because that was a huge issue. And I think we've taken steps to put Fort Mill School District in a position to still be successful and combat the growth. I think we've done that. It was a huge step. And now we're seeing Clover come, ask for an impact fee, which was successful. Now we're seeing York come. So we're taking steps to assist our partners with these respective school districts to combat some of the issues that the public brings, that this council brings, that the staff raises. So if we weren't doing those efforts, we may have an issue. And I even mentioned to Joe earlier, what everybody comes up and talks about the impacts on schools. Well, maybe we should just tell all the applicants, apply for rezoning and apply for these projects through the school district. Because everything seems to come back to say, the school doesn't want it, the school can't handle it. And if we're gonna base everything off what the school district or school boards are saying, let's send those rezonings to them because let this be their nightmare. Because we're shouldering the brunt of it, but yet and still, the school can say, we don't want any more students, or we can't handle it, or we need to go up on our operating millage. If this is gonna be all based on what the school district can or will accept, then I just assume that we do something and give all the rezonings to them because we're charged with these rezonings. Yeah, we take in consideration what the schools are facing, and we try to take steps to help them mitigate some of those issues. And I think we've done that on council. We've done it with the impact fees. And I just don't think another 48 units in Fort Mill is going to crash the school district. It's not going to overburden the roads. It's not going to be an inconvenience to the church or the other neighbors that surround in that area. So I'll be supporting it again tonight.
Any other discussion?
I need to ask Jonathan a question. What is the impact fee in Fort Mill for multifamily? Do you know?
For multifamily in our zoning code, it refers exclusively to apartments and condos, but for the purposes of the impact fee, which is in a separate chapter, has its own definition. So townhomes do have to pay the multifamily rate. That should be about $12,000.
$576,000 is the right number that the school would collect on that impact fee. The more you listen, the more you learn. I wish that I could have gotten ahead of some things in the Lake Wiley area, things just like this. The cumulative effect of rezonings being approved, on top of rezonings being approved, on top of rezonings being approved. If I could have gotten ahead of that, considering the fact that we haven't approved any rezonings in the Lake Wiley area since I've been on council, I would consider that a win. So I just want to tell you my thinking tonight is that I'm going to support Mr. Audette because that's not his district now, just like Lake Wiley wasn't my district then. But in 6 months, it will be his district. And I think he's ahead of the game. That's where I would have wanted to have been as a council person, now that I'm on it, but prior to being on it. The other thing that I want to say is this. Dear Clover, South Carolina, District 2, I hope that I'm never sitting in this seat and I have a council member say to me, my biggest fear is this. We're going to allow that rezoning because you've put an impact fee in place to offset this rezoning. The impact of this rezoning has already been offset. Because when they write that big check, in this case, $532,000 to the Fort Mill School District, that's how that's supposed to work. And what I have said from the beginning on impact fees, and I gave District 2 a very low impact fee for this very reason. I don't want anybody on this council to say, we're going to allow the impact because we've put a plan in place to allow for the impact on schools. When the developer stands up and says that the trip generation is low, I promise you that the trip generation being low does not offset the biggest concern in the Fort Mill School District, and that is schools. So in this case, I don't think it's the right thing to do. I think that had it been done a long time ago and there hadn't been a whole bunch of stuff added on top of it, it might have been the right thing to do. But tonight, for considering what's already happened in that area, even though they have the $18,000 impact fee, I don't think it's the right thing to do to approve this.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes 5-2. Are we at number 2 of old business? Council to amend and consider third reading of an ordinance to establish operating and capital budgets for the operation of the county government of York County for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2022, to provide for the levy of taxes for York County for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2022, to provide for the expenditure of tax revenues and other county funds, and provide for other fiscal matters relating to county government.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Winkler?
Just like clarification that this third reading does include the few minor amendments that were made on second reading, so.
It does, and there are a couple of motions that we talked about as well that need to be read out to clear it up. And in your packet, just like we do before every third reading, there's a reappropriation. Y'all should all have a copy of those changes as well, included in your packet.
Okay.
So I need to make a different motion. So I'm going to make a motion to approve with 2 changes. One is.
So the motion, the appropriate motion, since we had a first and a second, is to do an amendment, if you want to do your amendment separate. And then we can vote on the amendments and then the main motion.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to amend on section 28. Would like to change that to read, rather than reading municipalities, to read entities throughout that section. Kevin can address that if you have questions on that. And the second one is in section 30, the motion to direct the auditor to adjust the millage identified in section 30 down to offset any potential extra funds from the recreation tax. And I'll tell you what that is. That is specifically so that any reduction in millage, if based on what that rec coalition comes back with, any reduction would, any increase for the Lake Riley area would actually reduce the millage for Field Day Park.
Is there a second to the amendment?
Second.
Any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, amendment passes. Any other amendments? All those in favor of the main motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Budget is approved. Thank you, County Management, Finance Department, for getting us to this point. We move now to new business. Council to entertain a motion to reconsider the deferral of the recreation tax amendment from August 15th until June 20th, 2022.
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion in order to move it to July 18th, as it stands.
So the motion is to defer the item to July 16th?
16th. Is it 16th or 18th?
I thought we were moving it up.
This says June 20th.
The meeting in July, when there was discussions had with Mr. Audette, with Mr. Kendry, it was discussed to move it to wherever it needed to be. Okay, the auditor needs it by September 1st, so you can move the second reading, if y'all remember, you have second, third reading to the July meeting, and that's gonna be whatever that is, the third Monday in July, the July 18th to that meeting, and then the August meeting. That's what's needed to be done. So it could be done on the 20th, but Talcum started earlier. He'd rather push that back to July.
So the motion on the floor, if appropriate, is to move deferral to July 18th. Is that your motion?
Correct.
Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Council to approve updating memorandum of understanding between York County and the Catawba Regional Council of Governments as it relates to administering Davis-Bacon requirements for certain coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery fund projects.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Council to approve the purchase of 6 portable 911 operator positions and 6 portable 800 megahertz radio dispatch consoles via South Carolina State Contract number 44000-21163 from Motorola Solutions Incorporated of Columbia, South Carolina for a total equipment cost not to exceed $493,612.68 as part of the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds.
Move to approve.
Motion.
Second.
A second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. We move now to item number 17 from consent. Council to approve a professional services contract with ADC Engineering, Inc. for $319,130 plus a 15% contingency to prepare construction bid documents for Ebenezer Park Phase 2 for campground, ranger station, site, and bathroom upgrades.
So the reason I pulled this out is I think that something along these lines, when we are looking for these type of improvements, could go out to bid. And that would be my request, that we do go out to bid with this to see if we can get a better price.
So the motion is to defer to allow for an RFQ or an RFP?
RFP, yeah, so the motion would be for an RFP.
Is there a second? Is there a second for discussion at least?
Yeah, second for discussion.
Management, can you comment on those?
Yes.
I'm sorry, was there a specific, I know you said you were.
I think the question is the amount of the amount of this, considering that it is consulting fee, why it did not have an RFP. Are we getting the best price? What decision was made with that? Why it did not go out through that process?
This was awarded based on our on-call engineering program. We have a number of on-call services that are provided. Those are bid out on multiple-year contracts where we have we qualify firms in a specific field based on the type of service they provide. So in this case, a design firm that's qualified to do design and park construction or anything like that. Once we qualify those firms, similar to doing an RFQ for individual projects, we do them for any number of projects that we may have coming up. Once that project is determined that we're going to make it a project, then we negotiate a price with one of our vendors that have already been pre-qualified. So I think in this case, what you're asking is not to award this to a pre-qualified contractor, but to go out for an additional RFQ, or I think you said RFP, where we would just bid out the project specifically to a design professional, with price being the factor for award. And I'll defer to Kevin on whether that's appropriate as per our ordinance for procurement. My understanding is typically with professional services, we would qualify the vendors based on their qualifications, not on price. And then we would negotiate the price. But if there's some other way to do that, then Kevin, I'd let you expand on that.
Professional services such as the external audit that's done can be done through an RFP. Price is a component, but not the only component, and it's weighted depending on the whatever it might be. There'd be a team selected, and they would put the price. It's usually a small factor in the entire formula, but it is a component of that price.
So I guess you may get a better price. You would still have, as Kevin said, that's a smaller component. It wouldn't be just issued just on price. However, this part of the reason we do on-call is to expedite projects as well. So you have a list of pre-qualified firms that can do the work, and then you negotiate the price. You want to comment on how long it may take to go back up to an RFP and award this, Kevin?
I wouldn't know the exact time period on that. My guess would be in the months. You're probably looking at somewhere between, I would say, 3 to 6 months, probably 4 to 5 being most probable.
So when was this work estimated to be done in this project?
This is a 3-year
It's expected to take 3 years. This will be complete, this effort, yes.
Okay, so if we did go out to an RFP, if it's a 3-year term, again, at the end of the day, I want to save what we can to the taxpayers, and if it's a 3-year extended or 3-year term as far as getting the work done, I feel it's worth seeing if we can save taxpayer money.
I agree. I think it's a good example of maybe what those different, I've always had some question in the back of my mind about on-call. That word kind of scares me because it sounds kind of like overtime or something, but I think it'd be a good example of what on-call looks like versus what sending something out for an RFP would be.
I would just say, and I know I've had disagreements in the past about doing a local bid preference, but whenever we're doing RFPs, I agree on not basing it solely on price. So I don't think that is, we still want a decision, but I guess we're just wanting to have multiple proposals before you.
Yeah. And for clarification for me, I know there was questions asked. The reason we're using or recommended to use the on-call is because we don't have the expertise on staff to do this type of planning or engineering, correct?
That is correct. We don't have design teams, architectural, or we do have engineers on staff, but they're typically more from a regulatory standpoint and inspections and not really design. We probably have some good qualified people, but we're not set up to do design.
And we did RFQs for all of these on-calls as part of this to determine that they were qualified to be able to bid or do these projects, correct? So we already had multiple people bid, and we've selected these people as the on-calls from the previous RFQs way back.
We would have selected this among a few other firms that are qualified to do design work for us. But my understanding is this would go back out brand new to be an RFP, request for proposals that would include pricing, but would be open up to anybody that would like to bid. Is that correct?
It could be restricted to the qualified bidders to the RFQ process that were already selected, or it could be open to anybody that met the qualifications.
Is there any information that you have that waiting this long would actually result in, I mean, we have a lot of issues that we're juggling here along with the supply chain and all of that. I mean, obviously the council is interested and wants to make sure that we're getting a good price for the work that we're doing and also that it be consistent. Is there any reason that management's the one who put this in consent and recommended that we move this forward. Is there any reason that we ought to do that? Do you have any information that would suggest that we would save any funds by doing so?
Well, I think, if you go back out to bid, you have the risk that pricing would come in higher, and with the inflation, and if you delay the project 6 months, certainly inflation has a probability of entering into when you actually do bid the project. Right now, I think bidding would take place fairly soon, so you could take advantage of pricing now. Now, when we bid it 6 months from now, maybe pricing will be even cheaper if we're into a recession at that point. So we don't really know, but I think what you're looking at saving now, right now we have a quote of $319,000. If we bid that out and save, say, $50,000 on the price for the design, and we're 6 months later going out to bid for a $3 million project, we could very well lose every bit of that savings to inflation on the new bid. So it's something of a gamble. I think our use of on-call is simply so we can expedite projects, select a firm that we are comfortable is qualified to do the work, and that's really why we do on-call. We don't do on-call for every single project. Really kind of in a lot of cases, they're smaller or things that we need to turn around quickly. I think if we had a $10 or $15 million, water or sewer line, we could probably bid that out on its own. I think this size project kind of lends itself to use of the on-call engineers, but that is totally up to council.
Well, I think the process itself is to me is worth vetting out. And again, I don't know if it's specific to this, so it may not be. We may not want to delay it and we may want to move forward. But I think the discussion about going out to bid on items is something that I think that we need to, consider in certain aspects. Because I think that, again, at the end of the day, I know prices and everything, right? You got to get quality. But sometimes I feel like you've got other builders, et cetera, out there that probably could meet our needs at a cheaper price, and we may be, in essence, boxing them out through this process. And that's the last thing I want to do. I want to make sure we're giving the best bang for the buck to our taxpayers. And that's my concern.
If I could just clarify, we typically use on-call for engineering services, which is a professional service. Certainly when we do the project, we would bid that to the lowest bidder, lowest qualified bidder. And as with most everything we do, it's based on a bid, the lowest qualified bid. However, in the case of engineering services, professional services, we typically do an RFQ, which is what we've done in this case, and then negotiate the price with the most qualified firm.
And just for clarification, this is a recommendation for this on-call to prepare bid documents to go out to bid for the actual work, correct?
The bid documents, which include construction drawings and everything that would be needed to
Design
bid
work.
the project.
So the motion on the table is currently to reject this. Does that remain the motion, or?
At this point right now, I will withdraw my motion at this point. The more I think about this, and I think this has been a good discussion in regards to this. I feel that, and I think I think another discussion we should have at another time, and we have talked a little bit about, is a local bid process too, that would look at, getting as many local suppliers as we can as far as doing the work, et cetera. So I want to make sure we do have that down the road as an additional discussion. So I'm going to withdraw this at this point, and we'll move forward.
Move to approve?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and move to approve. Yeah.
Motion, is there a second? Motion and second.
I just want to say, I just want to tell Tom, I think we've come to our move to down the road discussion, because I've been saying something about getting a local bid preference for years. And it's good to hear someone else kind of start to try to formulate some ideas as to how do we work this in, because we spend a lot of money with what we do up here. And it's kind of sad to see that some of the people who are paying these bills, who live here in this county, are kind of seeing the door shut on being able to come into these chambers and get some of the work that they're paying the bills for through their taxes, through the fees and things that help run this government the way that we're running it. And we run a real tight ship here. But just knowing that some people here locally who with a little bit of tweaking to our procurement rules could probably get back into the fold of coming back to the well that they're already supplying with their tax dollars. And I think I've been screaming that for years, and I'm glad to hear someone else and a couple more people who are starting to think about what these type contracts, whether it's an engineering contract, whether it's a construction contract, or doing sidewalks in the community through Penis for Progress, or whatever we have going on, we've kind of shut the door. And I've heard from people saying that they will never bid on anything with York County because they don't have an opportunity. And I think we do need to start considering as much money as we can keep inside of these York County borders. We need to start looking at that, because even though people are still in business, they're not doing as good or as well as they were years ago, when other people are able to come in their backyard and take big contracts and big opportunities away from what we have right here in our own. So I look forward to having those discussions.
Mr. Winkler?
Brings up one quick question. Instead of us sitting up here and talking about a local bid preference, that we'd like to have one, we'd like to have one, we'd like to have one, how do we get that into a committee? What committee do we get it to? How do we do it to get something done on it?
Probably need to do that at non-agenda comments and then refer it to a committee.
Let's do it.
And we can do
Yeah,
that
I got it.
later on in the agenda. The motion on the table is to approve the recommendation from management to move forward with the on-call. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. I would say that I agree with Mr. Audette. I think it's important. I would ask F&O to take a look at what's the threshold to use that on-call, because I do think that we as council members need to be vigilant with our taxpayers and making sure that the policy that staff has done, that we understand it and that we have approved that and can make sure that we're getting the best approach. Again, that's a policy decision through F&O. We move now to committee and other reports. Planning and Zoning Committee, Chairwoman Allison Love.
The Planning and Zoning Committee met on Tuesday, May the 17th. Councilman Guffey and Roddy were present along with myself. And we talked about RICO. Again, we're trying to get RICO, we're putting it through a strainer, I think sometimes, and that's a good thing, the end result. But we've had a lot of meetings, and we are going to continue to meet. We discussed beekeeping. We actually had a presentation from the guy from the Beekeeper Association of York County. We, again, discussed event venues. We deferred landscaping requirements, and we deferred that back to planning department, to the planning director, to come back to us with some recommendations on that, I believe. And I really don't remember what else we talked about that afternoon. So, but just in summary, we are still working through the just fine-tuning RECODE and looking for things. So if anybody has anything that comes up that you have a question about or something, and you feel like it's something that might need to be addressed, if you'll please just let me know. We can add that to the future agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Love. Health and Environmental Protection Committee, Chairman Tom Audette.
Yes, Monday, May 23rd, we had a meeting, myself, Councilwoman Love, and Councilman Winkler. We met with the Rec Committee, and we made a recommendation for them that they then took away, and we gave them a date of June 15th to come up with a unanimous decision on a plan that they all approved on. Now, when they come back on June 15th to give us whether they were able to come up with a joint 100% agreement, then we will bring that in front of the committee for a vote, and then from there, bring it back to the council. Again, if they don't come up with a unanimous decision, then we will then vote on bringing back the second reading as we were before. So again, I just want to share those steps. Those were done. Currently, the Rec Committee is now working on coming up with a joint agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Audette.
You got it.
Economic Development Committee, Chairman Mr. Hamilton.
Economic Development Committee met this evening at 5 o'clock. Present were Councilman Audette as well as Councilwoman Love. We did receive an update from our Economic Development Director, David Swenson, regarding some projects in the pipeline. We came out of executive session and voted to approve for the recommendation to council 2 FILO amendments, although one was contingent on some additional information that we're waiting on from our director. So there will be 2 coming hopefully shortly to our next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Council member, new non-agenda comments.
I'll go ahead and start. First of all, I want to say I love this meeting. Completely long, but hit a lot of topics. Number one, I would like to see zoning for us to look into what it takes to move a mobile home, what those times, what the time periods are, or how new they have to be. So if we have a development like that was proposed, we do have options for those property owners to be able to move it to another property. So I'd like to see that happen. Then we discussed local bid preference. I've got plenty of information on that, Councilman Roddy, Councilman Audette, so I'd love for F&O to look at that. And then finally, this has been something that's been very important to me. Whenever I ran originally, I ran on term limits. It's something that 85% of the population agrees with, but yet no one ever votes for it. Nothing's ever done. People just get in and talk about it. I found out that on a local level, we cannot propose that. So what we have to do is it has to change to the Home Rule Act on the state level. So what I would like to do is I would like to refer this to F&O and like to pass or propose a resolution based on term limits of 12 years for all levels of government, just to state the intent of the will of council. And the purpose of that does not change anything immediately. That gives a resolution for York County to state where we stand. Hopefully we can get some of the other larger counties on board as well. And then our state legislator will actually have some ammunition to actually make a difference and force a change for term limits. And last but not least, we've got 2 council seats coming up for June 14th for the primaries. So make sure that you get out and vote. Councilman Joel Hamilton and Robert Winkler's seats are up, so make sure you get out there. Thank you.
Given the information that I've already heard, I don't know if every council member wants to speak, but the mobile home issue, certainly I don't think council has any objection to taking a look into that and that being referred to the Planning and Zoning Committee. When it comes to the bid preference, I would assume is the appropriate committee for that is either F&O or it's going to be Public Works. F&O. When it comes to the term limit issue, I mean, obviously, my position has always been, and I think that it is, it's a state law. We can't affect that. It's up to the people. One of the most influential and one of the best men I knew served 22 years on the local level, and people can get your hands on you on the local level. Look, we've had people who have taken out people that have served for a long time, and that's because you can get a hold of local people. Federal and state level, that's a little bit different, but certainly don't have any issue, and I understand that there's a majority of council that wants to have this, take a look at it, but that will be referred to F&O as well, as they're the ones to take a look at that. We do have, any other non-agenda comments?
Were there any down there? I don't want to.
I guess I'll just, I think to make it official, I think the way we're supposed to do this is tell everyone what, we're going to have a meeting and what we're going to discuss, so F&O next meeting, I'd like us to have on the agenda the reviewing the on-call ordinance and the local bid ordinance, looking at something for that and recommendations for that, and then discuss term limits, a resolution to support term limits. So.
Real quick, tomorrow I'm actually going to be having an additional meeting with Keystone, our substance abuse group that we work with, to get additional information that I want to report back to you all on. I think that what was brought to our attention, in regards to the impact of fentanyl in our county, et cetera, I want to dig deeper and look at how, again, we can continue to partner with this organization. So I'm going to have a meeting with them tomorrow. I just want to share that with y'all.
Mr. Hamilton.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention that this evening, June 6th, also serves as the 78th anniversary of D-Day, when 156,000 Allied soldiers and almost 196,000 naval personnel stormed the beaches of Normandy and began the very bloody process of liberating Europe. So I think we should all take a moment of silence to acknowledge the over 10,000 men and women who lost their lives that day. And I would also like to, officially support the local bid preference, as well as Brandon's resolution for term limits, but also something that Councilwoman Love mentioned earlier, which is that we take a look at, and from a planning and zoning perspective, what we can do to look at affordable housing solutions and where might be a good place. And I would like to take you up on that to maybe refer that to zoning and planning if there's support from the rest of this body to take a look at what we could possibly do to say, okay, well, this is an area that we would support it or not support it or encourage that type of development.
I think we're happy to take that on.
Mr. Roddy.
I want to first say, we saw the gentleman, Lieutenant Ayers, come up and present us with some information about the Worthy Boys and Girls Camp that the Rock Hill Police Department puts on. And like you mentioned, I was a participant of that camp, and it definitely gives the opportunity to some young men. When I was coming through, it was just boys only, but now they've incorporated having young ladies come through the camp as well. But it's like you mentioned, it's a totally free camp that gives, I would say, a lot of kids who are from a lower income perspective the opportunity to go off to camp for a week, because nowadays camp fees for anybody to go to, whether it's a Y camp or a Bethel camp or wherever they're going, off for a week costs hundreds and hundreds of dollars nowadays. But they still run this camp on a nonprofit basis, solely on donations and community support. And it stood out in my mind when I was talking to a police officer, and he was telling me, you should come back down to the camp and speak to the kids. And I was just thinking how wonderful it would be, since we have those discretionary funds, that I asked him to come to present to us what the camp's all about. And so I've chosen this organization as part of the outfit that I will be donating part of my discretionary funds to continue to help support the camp that provides these opportunities for our young men and women. And obviously you can come from anywhere in Rock Hill or York County and take part in this camp. And like I said, the camp just started today, and I look forward to going down and actually visiting the camp that I went to for 4 years straight, absolutely free. The food was good, the experience was great. And one thing he mentioned that you never think about as kids or even as parents, how if you go into a camp that's run by police officers, you start to develop that early relationship to get to see police officers in a different light than what you see on the news or an encounter that, you know, somebody has with them on the news or in the street. So it's a wonderful opportunity that I think addresses a lot of underlying issues that we don't necessarily talk about when kids go to camp. But this is certainly one that fills a lot of those needs when it comes to relationships in the community. So I just wanted to highlight that, and we will be working with them to get them some support funds. And also on the issue with the local bid preference or whatever we're going to call it, I definitely support that. I do take a little issue with the resolution for its term limits, because I've always on the belief that the voters decide how long you stay in office, not just a legislative process. And it's ironic that we're looking to set the term limits or the amount of years you can serve at 12. Ironically, I'm in my 12th year, so if this was to ever get any traction, I guess I can just say wave bye-bye as I leave the chamber once this goes off. But I don't think it's going to get any traction. It's just, to me, but good luck with it, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But we have a lot of other valuable things that we can be designating our staff time, especially our county attorney, his staff, county managers, and everybody, that we need to have them focus on things that are pressing and relevant right now. And I just don't think now's the time to be asking the state to reconsider their policies about term limits. So I won't be supporting that resolution when and if it ever makes it back to this body.
I just want to invite everybody out to Wood End Farm, and that's the big 87-acre green space across from Oak Ridge Middle School in the Clover area. We are participating in the Ag and Art Tour this weekend. We'll be there from only on Saturday. We're Sunday. We couldn't take on 2 days, but we've got 50 vendors. We've got a great barbecue truck out there. We've got a bluegrass band. So just want to invite everybody to make their way over to Wood End Farm. There are also 26 other farms and venues on the Western Side Tour this weekend. So it's a great opportunity to bring the kids. We've got one of the only dog-friendly venues, so you can bring your dog, but be sure the next place you're going doesn't have chickens and goats, and you can't leave your dog in the car in this heat. So anyway, just would love to see some of you council members over there at the farm.
I would love to be there.
I know
My
you
oldest
would.
will be getting married, so
Congratulations on
thank
that,
you.
too.
But that's an exciting thing for Wood End as well. We do have some folks who have been waiting very patiently on the Concerned Citizen. Sonny McCrory to address council regarding the Encourage and Serve Club of America. He left. Oh. Kathleen Fee to address council regarding backyard chicken keeping ordinance.
I apologize in advance. I'm not the greatest public speaker, so bear with me. I'm going to try my best to keep everybody engaged, though. I'm pretty good at that. Hi, I'm Kate. I live at 532 Rutledge Drive, right in Catawba. I moved down here from the Jersey Shore, so you can only imagine the change. I was never allotted the opportunity to have chickens before, and I got here and kind of fell in love with them. It came to my surprise when I found out I was not allowed to have 13 chickens, which I had. And I ended up having to rehome 7 of my chickens. So you can imagine I was pretty upset. Chickens are pretty important to me, just the idea that they're really good therapeutically and the fact that I have a chronic illness. So eggs are a huge staple for my diet. I kid you not, I go through way too many eggs in a week, and that's just me alone. I'm not the only person in my household. So chickens for me are super important in the fact that they are really good for my diet, and inflation right now, as you guys have discussed up here, is a huge problem. So the cost of gas and going to the store to get more eggs that cost more to drive home is really not that fun right now. So for me to have backyard chickens, it's pretty easy for me to maintain. I mean, they're quiet, they don't bother people, they're fenced in. Mine are fenced in, so they weren't ever a problem for anybody. I mean, dogs get out all the time, so for me to have chickens that stay in my backyard and can't get out because their wings are clipped, to find out I can only have 6 when they aren't a problem for anybody, it just kind of shocked me. So I came up with a plan that I would like to share with you. So I would recommend a limit for people that do not have a enclosed area for chickens. So I can keep my chickens fenced in my backyard. Not everybody has that opportunity. So I can understand the chicken limit for them. I would start this at 24 weeks for them, because before that, chickens can't be sexed. You can't tell if they're going to be roosters or if they're going to be hens. So if somebody wants to raise chicks for those 24 weeks until they can decide which ones are hens to keep, that would be a lot easier for them. For me, being able to have as many chickens as I want, because, I mean, they're not really a concern. What's the difference to my next door neighbor if I have 6 chickens or 12? I can understand roosters can be loud, but dogs bark at 2, 3 in the morning, and that's just accepted. But I moved down to the country to be able to have the opportunity to have more animals, and I'm not registered as a farm or anything, but 4 minutes from me is 2 farms that can have as many chickens as they would like. So I would suggest some sort of a permit, not like, it's kind of like an ordinance. So right now for sheds, you have to go through and do this paperwork and whatnot, and then it's approved to be there, and then neighbors can't complain. So it would kind of have the same idea. So it would reduce the amount of calls for violations that you would get, because they are now permitted. So it would just pretty much state, I have an enclosed area for my chickens to stay, and if their intended use, just backyard chickens. For me, it would be for their eggs, or if people want to raise their chicks and sell them, if that's the kind of information that you need, they should be able to provide that and have it either approved or denied by the council, just like any other shed or other issues that may be in the county. Does anybody have questions?
Can
or
I
anything?
reply?
Sorry, I speak really fast. It's the Jersey thing.
Thank you, Ms. Fee. We typically don't engage, but council has, you're more than welcome. We're actually going to take a little break before we do executive session. You can exchange numbers, and I'm sure he'll be the first one you'll want to talk to lobby for that.
Thanks.
Do we have a motion for executive session?
We do. I move that we go into executive session for the receipt of legal advice relating to litigation updates, also for the receipt of additional legal advice relating to GTRE LLC, also for the receipt of legal advice relating to Blue Granite.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll move into executive session in 5 minutes. Session, no action was taken. Do we have any motions?
We have 2 motions. Our first motion is to associate Reed and Smith for a legal matter as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Our second motion is to authorize our legal counsel to proceed as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.